Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to the Board of Education regular meeting in person and available Zoom. I'd like to call to order the session for this evening and lead us all in the flag salute. Please stand. Again, I pledge and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We'll now begin with the introduction of board members and staff. Begin by introducing myself. My name is Adam Escoto, and I'm the president of the board. And we'll.
Good evening and welcome, Nancy Altman, Vice President.
Good evening. I'm Terry Eves-Knudsen, trustee.
Hello, everyone. Mary Patterson, trustee. Big welcome to our students in the room of all ages.
Hello. Welcome. Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a todos. Iván Rosales, Montes.
Good evening. Welcome, Pamela Gardiner, trustee.
Thank you for joining us. John Horner, trustee.
Kelly Schriefer, executive assistant to the superintendent.
Good evening, Carmen Garcia, superintendent. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to address our Spanish-speaking community. A todos nuestros padres y comunidad de habla hispana, tenemos traducción simultánea. Por favor, hagan clic en el icono del mundo debajo de la pantalla. Hagan clic en el icono del mundo debajo de la pantalla y gracias por estar con nosotros.
Good evening, Assistant Superintendent Penny Timbo.
Buenas tardes. Good evening. My name is Diana Jimenez. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services.
All right. We'll now move to approve tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion?
I so move to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Knudsen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Altman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Moving on to item E, closed session. There is nothing to report. Now we're moving to item F, recognitions and presentations. F1, climate action pathways for schools presentation. Assistant Superintendent Jimenez and CAPS Program Director Estefania Fian. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I hope I did. Oh, Fien will introduce and present this item. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, my introduction is pretty short. I'd like to welcome Estefania Bien, our Program Director for Climate Actions Pathways, and our phenomenal students who are going to share a little bit about their journey with this project and showcase their findings. Ms. Bien?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for the space, the time. My name is Dr. Estefania Pien González. Muchas gracias a todos por la atención. I represent Climate Action Pathways for Schools. We're a small nonprofit organization located in the Bay Area, and we partner with school districts to help them advance climate action plans, whether they already have them or they need to create one from scratch. So for the past academic year, we have been working with a magnificent group of 15 junior and senior students. We have a devoted group here that even after summer started, they were able to come to this presentation and share their findings. So today you're going to hear from them for two specific areas that they worked on: buildings decarbonization, and then an assessment of the current efforts from transportation, maintenance, and also food and nutrition service. We can go to the next slide. Or do I have a clicker somewhere? Okay, thank you. Very quickly, because I don't want to take time from the students. Our program really targets two main things. Skills that some would say are soft skills or skills that are not traditionally included in formal classroom instruction. So from inputting and organizing and understanding very complex data. Thank you. to public speaking, what's happening today, and creating recommendations through systemic thinking and strategic design. We also have a very mind connect this green careers and trades that are available, particularly in California. So throughout the 10 months that the students did their work, they had opportunities to learn about these different careers and what does it imply, and remind them that all of them are capable, regardless of whether they're very STEM oriented or they're more into like the social sciences. So with that said, to the next one, thank you. The first piece of their work's related to decarbonizing buildings, so helping buildings operate in a cleaner way. This is a very complex task and it requires a lot of data analysis, and we focus on creating a baseline. So starting first with understanding what we could understand with the data that was available. So now we're going to hear from the interns, the data that they collected, that they structured and analyzed, and we're going to hear some very general recommendations that they're providing. And then we're going to move on to the second portion of their work specific to assessing the actions that are currently underway by different departments. So with that, I want to welcome all the students. Thank you. And we can have Alana come first.
So the first objective of our work was to identify the energy consumption for each site within our district.
Excuse me, can you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, hi, I'm so sorry. My name is Alana Yamant. I'm an intern for CAPS. So the first objective of our work was to identify the energy consumption for each site within our district. And with this data, signal areas for infrastructural and operational improvements that can effectively reduce greenhouse gas emissions and costs for the Morgan Hill Unified School District. So this first objective was conducted through 6 phases, and that included organizing all the data on electricity usage for the 2022 to 2023 fiscal year, which was provided to us by the Morgan Hill Unified School District. We then calculate the usage per year for each site, as well as the amount paid for electricity per month and year for each site. So with this data, we identified the sites that had the highest and lowest electricity usage. And from there, we determined how this consumption compared to a benchmark that already existed for California schools. We also conducted at Live Oak a level 1 A-share audit to better understand how additional analysis would be needed to produce precise and targeted recommendations targeted recommendations for each site, and also to understand elements in buildings and rooms that contribute to energy consumption. Lastly, with all the information at hand, we produced a series of initial recommendations for improving energy consumption across the Morgan Hill Unified School District.
Thank you. So this table shows a summary of what the students found with the available data. And I want to highlight that that data came from the district. It required a lot of effort. So thank you so much for helping us on that. Nevertheless, we had important gaps in the data, meaning that for some school sites, we didn't have the information for all the meters. And in many occasions, we didn't have all the months for a meter or for a complete school site. So we decided to focus with the recommendation of the engineers that are part of our organization on 9 school sites. So please keep that in mind, that these totals do not reflect the complete data set that exists through the utilities company. So that's a great opportunity. That's something that if we were able to work again with the district in the future, we would love to help to provide recommendations and ideas on how that type of data and information can be better organized. So you have a window, an easy access window for that type of information. So with that said, we're gonna go next to Mary.
Hi, my name is Mariam Farouki, I'm an intern. And so as part of the work we've done, we've calculated the energy usage intensity of 9 school sites. And to understand what these numbers in this chart means, it's to give context to how these school sites performed in energy consumption last year. And it takes consideration in square footage of each school site. And because we lack data on natural gas and we didn't include solar energy into this, all of these numbers represent electricity. So in this chart, we're comparing each site's EUI, energy usage intensity, to the California benchmark. And the California benchmark is a number that's reflective on regions similar to Morgan Hill. And so to understand what these numbers mean as well, the bigger the number is positively, the lower the school site had performed, and the lower the number is in the negatives, the higher the school site had performed. So to analyze, we can see that Ann Sobrato, PA Walsh, and Paradise Valley were the lowest performers, with PA Walsh being the lowest performer, and the high performer school sites were Central, Martin Murphy, and Los Paseos, with Central being the highest performer. And the sites at the bottom with the district office, Jackson and Barrett, were performed average to the California benchmark.
Hello, I'm Riley Merle. This chart shows the total electricity usage.
Riley, can you speak a little louder?
And tilt
You
the
can
mic
move,
up
you can
towards
move the
you.
mic up too.
Yeah,
There we
that
go.
will help.
Hello, my name's Riley Merle.
And we want to make sure that people on Zoom can hear you.
Yeah. This chart shows the total electricity used by each school in the year, and it also shows the calculated carbon emissions that were emitted to produce that electricity. The chart's color coordinated, separating into high schools, elementary schools, middle schools, and district buildings. To put those emissions into a little bit more context, we brought some comparisons. For our data, we used the EPA greenhouse equivalent calculator. PA Walsh produced 216 metric tons of CO2, which is the same amount it would take to produce the power to power 42.6 homes for an entire year. Sobrato produced 872 metric tons of carbon, which is the same as the emissions from 208 cars for an entire year. And lastly, Paradise Valley produced 142 metric tons, which is enough to power 27.9 houses for an entire year.
Hi, my name's Kaylin Nguyen, and after we've looked at the data and began to understand it, as a group, we generated some recommendations for the infrastructural improvements that the district could implement to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases, and while doing that, save money. The first idea we had was for school sites, rather than having a central system where the district controls temperatures, each school site has their own control system. Why, you may ask? Some teachers have unique behaviors / different needs. Some teachers leave doors open during presentations and during activities. There are times that temperatures outside doesn't match the temperature inside. Temperatures outside can be cold, making classes cold, where teachers can't control this. The second idea regarding lights, similar to the first, is that light usage should be able to be changed based on the needs of teachers. Some teachers come in much earlier or stay much later than the school day starts or ends. This control should also apply to the outside lights that should be turned off after school hours. The third idea we had was that there should be a designated area for teachers' wants and needs, such as mini fridges, coffee makers, and other appliances. Rather than each teacher having these appliances separately, there's a devoted space allowing teachers to be able to have their appliances and cutting back on energy usage in classrooms. The fourth idea is that since lights take up most of the school's energy, a school day is from morning to afternoon, meaning that there's mostly bright lights throughout the day due to the sun. By implementing more windows, there will be more natural lights. As schools have lots of windows, we request that curtains / blinds are removed to make better usage of the natural light provided. The last idea on infrastructural factors is that within school campus, we believe that there should be an increase of green coverage to introduce native plants that should be seen outside through classrooms. This helps cool down the external space overall, cooling down the campus for students and staff.
Good evening. I'm Ella Yang and a CAPS intern. In addition to what my colleague Kaylin has explained, we also want to implement behavioral and educational aspects along with the infrastructural recommendations. Some of the recommendations we have are assessing energy behaviors at each school, make energy consumption data accessible to teachers and students, provide energy consumption education to teachers and students to promote behavioral changes. We hope to regularly check in with staff as well as educate staff on productive and sustainable practices. Another recommendation we have is to establish mandates to support smart energy behaviors, considering the teacher or staff's challenges and needs. And finally, we hope to share the successes of other schools to promote a sense of collective responsibility and action to battle the overconsumption of energy in the district. We want to emphasize that these are general recommendations and are able to be modified and changed as it pertains to each school site and staff's needs. Thank you.
We're going to hear now specific to the climate actions that are being taken by the Transportation, Maintenance and Operations, and Food Nutrition Services, which are the three departments that the students connected with and gather qualitative data.
So for our second objective, we assessed current efforts by MHUSD in 5 key areas: building decarbonization, food, waste, water, and transportation, and we identified local organizations that can become partners to advance sustainability in each area. So for our first and second phase, we collected information in transportation, grounds and maintenance, and student and nutrition services as to identify and understand what resources are needed to advance the goals across each school site. And for our part on that, as a third and fourth phase, we researched on any organizations, government policies or entities, and any private businesses that aligned with the work conducted, that connected the work they we connected the work that they conducted to what would help the department's needs and goals. And finally, in our fifth phase, we're proposing collaborations on possible projects to advance on the needs and goals of those MHUSD departments based on the research and data we've gathered thus far.
Hello, good evening. My name is Sophia Ruiz McGinty. I'm also a CAPS intern. As my colleague Miriam just explained, one of the most important pieces of our work was understanding the needs of each department in terms of improving energy consumption. Goals for actions to be taken by grounds and maintenance staff include education for staff on improving electricity consumption behaviors, establishing a system to monitor which sites are using heating or AC excessively, and preventing occupancy at odd times of the year. Additionally, sites need support to ensure that all appliances and electronics are unplugged, reduce the number of appliances in classrooms for personal use, and prioritizing water conservation at a student and buildings level. For the transportation department, there's a need to have additional funding to increase the capacity to electrify buses beyond their current bus routes and cover extra transportation needs such as field trips, as currently the infrastructure for our district is not suited for a large-scale electric fleet. Finally, for food and nutrition services, we heard that there is an important focus to source local produce, produce bio-based packaging, introduce large-scale compostable units as mandated by law, and to have kitchens that are built for scratch cooking. We also learned that there is a need to use data analysis of the impact of consumption from the Eat Real certification, and also have a study on the carbon footprint of the meals that are being served in the district. Next slide, please. Okay. In alignment with these goals, we researched potential actions to support the district that could help with these infrastructural needs. In our final report, we present a detailed explanation of how we envision each of these organizations helping MHUSD's goals in clean transportation food systems and building decarbonization. However, right now, me and my peers and I will offer a snapshot of some of these partnerships that can be explained in more depth.
My name is Lorelei Henry, and as we heard from the district that there is a need to reduce water consumption, our research Santa Clara Valley Water. This is an organization that aims to provide safe and clean water supplies across the Santa Clara County, and they have already collaborated with indigenous communities to ensure that their waterways are clean for usage and consumption, along with building water fountains in various schools as an accessible way to keep students hydrated while ensuring that their water is being used effectively. A future collaboration with Santa Clara Valley Water and CAPS could help increase the placement of clean water and sinks around the MHUSD school district and provide educational resources to ensure that safe water and water practices are being done in schools.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Okay. After meeting with the district's transportation department, it became really apparent that there remains a need for funding to electrify the school bus fleet. This prompted me to research programs that would be able to bridge this gap in funding. The California Energy Commission promotes accelerated development and deployment of zero-emission vehicles and related infrastructure with annual investments of up to $100 million through their Clean Transportation Program. According to the district transportation director, MHUSD currently only has a grant allocating funds for 6 electric buses. However, these vehicles do not have sufficient charging infrastructure to support their routes. As Maggie Zapata mentioned, the funding for these buses may not have come through yet, and therefore the need for funding this endeavor can come from various different entities such as this. This is why we recommend applying for a grant funding solicitation to be a sponsored project for the 2025 year to receive the grant that would be put towards electrifying the complete district fleet. With this, charging infrastructure suited for a large-scale electric fleet could be implemented as the need to power a growing number of zero-emission vehicles grows.
As we did more research, different programs that MHUSD could work with, we decided to tackle the district of large-scale composting. We found that a good collaboration would be through Santa Clara County's compost education program. Half the battles when it comes to composting is that people don't necessarily know what it means or how to do it. The compost education program promotes composting on an individual level as well as a community level, which helps prevent unnecessary food waste while increasing local waste management. This program also offers free workshops and free school presentations that educate on how to compost.
So based on what my colleague Kaylin has described, we recommend using this program through collaboration with CAPS to educate students through the workshops and presentations they offer. And once composting is readily available in schools, we want to standardize its education at a young age for students. Additionally, on the high school level, we can see benefit in environmental clubs that can take advantage of the program and better facilitate composting outside of what the program offers. This would help also bring more exposure to environmental clubs and more personal awareness to climate issues school-wide. And to note, by California law, schools have to compost, so this program offers a way to satisfy that policy.
Thank you. We have in total 20 of these recommendations. We're providing a very detailed report by the end of next week. We're hoping to meet with the different directors, including Ricky Carrillo and Maggie Zapata. And we would like to take into consideration any feedback, questions that they have, and include those in the final report. This was a snapshot, so thank you so much for providing them with the time to share their work and their conclusions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Yes. Colleagues, any questions, comments regarding the presentation? Trustee Patterson.
You presenters. I'm still a little confused about the numbers in that one of those initial slides. Caitlin? Yeah, it was slide 3, summary of data challenges and electricity consumption. Slide 3. Kelly, would you mind bringing that up? I'm just curious, y'all, that huge number, 2 million for Sobrato versus everybody else. Is that accurate? And what's the explanation for that?
Do you guys want to tackle it? I can tackle it.
And are any of you Sobrato students?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe you have some personal hands-on experience for what's going on there. Thank you.
So 2 things. We work exclusively with data that we receive. We weren't able to do qualitative analysis, which would have allowed us to really, pair that with what's happening at the schools, including like the type of lighting systems, including the behaviors. Are we seeing a lot of plugs, right? Appliances? Are we seeing doors left open? So the data that we had came exclusively from paper bills. They were amazing at organizing all of these different bills per meter, per month, for each of those sites that we have on the table. So one of the big recommendations that we have in the report, Mary, is that there should be a centralized database or location for all these different bills. Month to month, they come in, they get fed into this database, and then you have every meter every month for every school site. So we acknowledge that we didn't have all the meters for all the school sites, and we had to do some estimations. So we had the support of different engineers in our team that said, for example, for these sites, we only have 50% of the month. So say only 6 months. We really cannot estimate like the prior month using the data that we had available. So that's why we only included these ones. Now, we also know that Sobrado is one of the biggest ones in terms of inhabitants, right? Capacity and also square footage. So that also has an impact. But one of the things that is recommended in our report is to do a level 1 Azure and a level 2 energy audit. And that allows us to get the qualitative data to really get granular and understand, well, what's happening at Sobrado, and then what's happening in one of these lower usage schools. And if they're similar in square footage, is there anything that can be replicated, for example, at Sobrado?
So am I to understand the difference in electricity usage between Sobrado at 2 million and Live Oak at 38,000 could be something around missing meter bills?
I would say not just missing bills. I think there's some practices and behaviors that are affecting. I personally went several times to Sobrado, and I would find windows open with the ACs running, doors open, lights on after school hours. And we also did a visit to Live Oak, and we didn't see those behaviors at Live Oak. So I think that a really in-depth behavioral qualitative analysis would be very, very useful, because when going through all these data and comparing what we had, there were gaps, but they were not that significant to say, well, that's why we see these big difference between, like a Live Oak and a Sobrado, that both are high schools and have similar needs and uses, right? Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. Any other comments? Trustee Montes.
Thank you, President Escoto. Thank you all for the presentation tonight and the information and the work that you all have been doing. My question was if you all can share a little bit with us about your experience as an intern with CAPS, what that looked like for you given the school schedule, and if either of you can share with us just your experience.
Just to introduce myself again, I'm Alana. I'm a rising senior at Sobrado. I'm one of three Sobrado students here today. We met weekly on Zoom, primarily from 7:30 to 8:30. So that was using the time that we were not in school with late start. We worked primarily on Zoom. A lot of other districts for CAPS you're going to see were in person. We did that due to just the sheer multitude of schedules we had. We were set up into about 2 to 3 phases, essentially, of our internship. And that first stage was a lot of that data gathering. At our very first meeting for CAPS, where we spent about 4 to 5 hours at, not the CRC, but the community center, we sat down and we looked through and we sorted documents based on their location. And we did a lot of hands-on, just raw data that we didn't really understand in that first set. Then moving on, we began to start moving into teams. We started looking through that data. We started working with one another. I personally, along with 2 other interns, sat down with just not solar data. We counted on hand solar panels that we saw at Live Oak. And then a lot of it was we worked closely with Estefania. We worked closely with each other. As we said, we did that level 1 Azure audit at Live Oak. And then we also had to coordinate. I would say we were working, there would be a week where maybe we do 2 hours of work. And then leading up to this, I believe we did about 6 hours of work this week. And we were very aware of AP exam schedules. I'm one of many who I know we had a schedule of everyone's AP exams, and the majority of students here took at least 4 AP classes. We bounced all of that, and I would just like to say that I think we all worked very raw data, and then we worked a lot with qualitative, even if it wasn't always as much as we'd love to do. We definitely balanced and made everything work out. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And one more follow-up. If just building on that question, if you can share sort of your biggest takeaways from the experience of being an intern with CAPS thus far.
Hi, I'll also repeat my name again. I'm Mariam Faruqi. And to answer your question, I think for at least my personal experience, one of the takeaways was definitely a change in perspective and how like your own community works. Because previously before CAPS, I always thought like Morgan Hill is a nice suburban town community. We don't have much electric, gas, like we don't have factories here or anything. So like what could possibly be like, needing all this climate action? And then like I took this program and like, wow. Like we actually, and it opened my eyes, and I was like, there are a lot of things we could change that could make us like, revert to the image of how I saw Morgan Hill. And I think that's what like CAPS, I think helped a lot of us kind of realized where, really like the climate action and what's wrong with, the climate action of this town and what needs to change for our school to make it how we want it to be. I think that was, for me, like the biggest takeaway I had.
Thank you.
Trustee Horner.
Thank you. Thank you so much, students. What you've discovered how hard understanding what's actually going on can be. I'm sure that was a bit of a surprise, but I really appreciate the data. I mean, I have lots of thoughts and questions about the data. I don't want to go into them tonight. Maybe with you or staff later, I can. I'm an electrical engineer, so I could now geek out for 2 hours, but I'm not going to do that. I do wonder how we account for the solar production at Sobrato and Live Oak, and if there's some vagaries about what's hooked up to what meter and what meter is going in what direction, when, if that might account for some of the differences. I am like the Live Oak electric cost of $6,730, 0.895. I wonder if that decimal point's in the wrong place, because for a facility of that size to only spend $6,700 on electricity in a year, that would really be extraordinary. So there's more to understand there, but I really I appreciate that you all have dug in the way you have. I think it sounds like you've gotten a lot out of it. Marvelous presenting. This experience will serve us and you well. I hope we're able to continue it. And then for our staff from CAPS, my question is, when we first started down this road with all y'all, to use the Texas term, the idea that I heard about at the AEC was, bring us in, hire us under a contract to get started. And then we're really great at finding grants and other resources to continue both the educational side of it and the implementation side. And I haven't seen anything on that tonight. Tonight was focused on the student presentation. So I'm wondering, from the CAPS organization point of view, what do you have for us?
Yes, I actually have some news. We were contacted by the city so we could apply for a grant. So we completed that grant application with the city. And then we have 2 private funders that we have connected with, large companies, that are in the industry of like clean energy and transportation. And we're in the moment working with them to see if they can secure the funding for double the number of students for next year. So our executive director already had a conversation with Dr. Jimenez this morning, and we'll have more news in the next, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks. But we selected Morgan Hill for many reasons, but we're working hard to secure those funding, those private funders from 2 different companies in the area.
Oh, that's wonderful news, because as you know, we, like many school districts, are under intense budget pressure in the year ahead, and I desperately want to see this effort continue. I see the value in it, educationally, socially, operationally, but we have a lot of difficult decisions to make. So please make sure those people say yes.
We are working hard. We're being
And if
very
there's any way
convincing.
I or any of others can be helpful, it's like,
Thank you, John.
I'll meet anybody for a cup of coffee on a Zoom anytime.
Perfect. Thank you. And we have lots of answers on Live Oak, particularly because of their solar systems that weren't taking into account on that costs. But we'll present the final report, and we would love to have an opportunity to provide more detailed explanations on the data we got.
Thank you, May. Maybe there's a breakout meeting for those of us interested. Thank you.
Colleagues, any other comments? Yes, please. Trustee Knudsen.
Thank you for participating in this trial program. I think you have gathered and organized very important information, and we will take a look at it, and hopefully we can make progress as a district and as each site to improve. I'm wondering if any of you will be in the program, would sign up again for next year. How many of your students do you think would come back and do more research?
LA's leaving. She's our only senior, so we cannot.
Okay, you can.
Although we want to.
Thank you for graduating.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Vice President.
I just want to thank the students for coming. It looks like it was a pretty interesting project, but we have a long ways to go, and I'm really looking forward to a big compost pile on each campus. I swear I was trying to get that going many years ago at Britain. And it's the kind of thing you'll discover, as you discovered when you walked into this project. As soon as you go in a little bit, it gets more complicated as you go. But I think it's a phenomenal learning experience, and the presentation was just superior. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Dr. Pien, I want to thank you for your leadership, the support, obviously support that you've given your students. And a quick survey. Raise your hand if you're considering a career in the sciences. Yeah. Very, very impressive. Was really enjoyed your presentations, your individual presentations. Clearly, everybody had a specific role, and you fulfilled it to the max. Wonderful presentation. We're often audiences of many student presentations. This one I really, really enjoyed. Not that I haven't enjoyed the others, but this subject is something that is important to all of us. And in fact, you inspired me to start thinking about composting. So thank you very much. All right. Oh, one more comment.
For those of you not considering a career in science, go get them. You guys, there's a room for everyone. My husband was a scientist. Both my kids were social studies majors, and both are writers now. So just recognize that, the scientists need someone to write behind them.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again. All right. We're going to move on to G1, approve the minutes for the special board retreat meeting of May 31st, 2024. May I have a motion?
Mr. President, I so move that we approve the minutes of the special board retreat meeting on May 31st, 2024.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. G2, approve the minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting of June 4th, 2024. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 4th?
I move to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, now we move to item H, public comment. And members of the public may address the board on any topics not listed on the agenda. However, the board may not discuss issues raised that are not listed on the agenda. Topics not on the agenda that are brought to the board's attention may be investigated by the administration, and a report made to the board publicly or privately at a future meeting. Comments by visitors shall not exceed 3 minutes. Our first speaker via Zoom is County Board of Supervisors Sylvia Arenas. Supervisor, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you, and I apologize. I don't have my ear pods, so you might hear a lot of the city sounds. So, but I wanted to make sure that I commented. Is it okay to begin?
Well, let me just share with my colleagues. Colleagues, if you could turn off your mics, we've discovered that in the past there's some feedback. And when you're ready, Supervisor, you may begin.
Perfect. I am ready now, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of Dr. Garcia. There's very few opportunities for me to chime in into different municipalities about leadership, and I take advantage of those opportunities when I see fit. And I'm actually in a meeting in the moment, but I've stepped out to actually do this. And it's because when leadership really counts, we have to make sure that we show up for it in the same way that we want parents to show up for their students and students to show up for education. It all really starts at the top, and Dr. Garcia has demonstrated throughout the years that she is able to take this district in directions that have never been never been taken before. One example is the dual immersion and the opportunity for her to actually expand this into a full dual immersion school. And as a parent of a dual immersion student in Evergreen, I'm absolutely proud. I'm also proud of the increased graduation rates, the opportunity for parents to participate. There's just so much that she has done, and I don't know that I have enough time in a 3-minute span to really talk about this. But what I really want to spend some time talking about is when you have the right people in the right, sorry, that's an airplane passing by, but when you have the right people at the right time, there's so much that can be accomplished. And Dr. Garcia is a living example of being at the right place at the right time. And so I really hope that all of you have appreciated the work that she's done over the years, as well as the parents. And I'm calling in to support her and to underline all of the really great work that she's done. Needless to say that she doesn't need my voice. Her work speaks for herself. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Our next speaker is C.J. Young, who's also on Zoom. Mr. Young, can you hear me? You're muted. C.J. Young. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
C.J., I apologize. Yes, I can hear you, and
Great.
I can hear that you're a woman.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No worries at all. Hi, my name is CJ Young. I'm a resident of Morgan Hill, and I'm a parent of a student at Barrett Elementary. My husband and I have been really pleased with his experience at Barrett, and he's so excited to go back this fall. And he just recently started the summer program at El Toro. And so far he loves it, and he's already making new friends from kids from other schools. And I really know this is going to be really enriching for him and really build his confidence. Just to share a little bit about me, I am proud to be a part of Child Advocates of Silicon Valley as a team member and as a CASA volunteer. Our organization is dedicated to the CASA program, the Court-Appointed Special Advocate Program, where we recruit and train and support adult volunteers who are ready and willing to stand up for foster youth in Santa Clara County. And they do that by advocating their best interest in the court and also just provide them with those positive childhood experiences that they need. So with that, I just wanted to take a moment to give a shout out to Mary Patterson, who serves as a trustee on the school board. Every year in June, the Silicon Valley Business Journal accepts nominations from the private sector, public, and nonprofit for the 100 most influential women in Silicon Valley, and Mary has been named as an honoree. I'm familiar with Mary with our work together at Child Advocates, but also with how she supports our school district. When it comes to the children, Mary's heart is always in the right place, and she's worked hard to ensure that all children have a chance to succeed, and I appreciate her strong leadership with the school district. Her recognition as one of the most influential women is definitely a testament to her hard work, her passion, and it makes me even more proud of our small community here. Congrats, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, our next speaker is Armando Benavides, also on Zoom. Mr. Benavides, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you?
All right.
Hello.
You may begin.
Can you hear? Okay. Well, thank you. First off, I do want to thank County Supervisor Silva Arenas to come in and speak on behalf of all the good things and good leadership on behalf of our Superintendent, Carmen Garcia, Dr. Carmen Garcia. I have been following since 2000 all the different trustees that have served our district, and Dr. Garcia stands out. I also want to thank those students who came in with the CAP report. I think they're wonderful, and they presented some great ideas. I think we could probably save some money. I know that Governor Newsom had recommended that some funds be allocated this year so that this district's, not our district, but the district can apply for grants to buy electric buses, but unfortunately that was not adopted by the legislature. But hopefully in the future we will get that. I want to also thank our teachers. I know that the 2023-2024 academic year has come to an end, and I want to share my appreciation to all our district's dedicated teachers, classified staff, and our district leadership. I wish them all a relaxing summer, though I know that many of them will be spending time preparing for the next academic year. Some are probably going to be teaching summer school, so their summer is going to be cut short. But I personally know a teacher who is taking a few weeks of vacation going abroad, and it is a well-deserved vacation. I probably won't hear from him for a couple of weeks. So the district teachers foster the best learning environment for our students throughout the year, and we're grateful for what they do for our students. This has been a challenging year because there's still residual effects from the COVID that affect our students, and I know that that's reflected in our classrooms, and our teachers and other district personnel have had to deal with that issue, helping our students cope and overcome the many effects that COVID has brought to our academic environment. But they met the challenge, and they're really working with our students and families to bring that kind of reverse those lapses. Our district staff are also facing a challenging fiscal environment, but I would be remiss if I did not also acknowledge the good work and leadership of our Superintendent, Dr. Garcia. So thank you and the board. Thank you for the board too for all the work you put in. So thank you to all of you, and I look forward to seeing all our teachers and our district personnel come back for the 2024-2025 school year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Anahita Yazdi.
Sorry, I didn't get the memo to bring pom-poms for tree rigging session.
With that, let's switch to more heavier topics. Tonight, I'd like to begin with a couple of agenda items that are high dollar values. Item J1G, which is the request for approval of 2425 legal services. I like to point out that there has been a significant increase in the use of attorneys and outside counsel over the past 3 years. Starting in 21-22, the legal contracts have started at $383,000 per year, which remain at the same dollar value in 22-23. The contract amount, however, jumped to about $407,000 in 23-24, and now that amount has been increased with a shocking $686,000 in 24-25. This is a nearly 80% growth in legal expenses in 3 years. I would like to better understand the actual expenses compared to the approved contracts and whether actual legal costs exceed the initial contracts. We also need to analyze the underlying reasons for this increase and compare our legal expenses with those of neighboring districts. Second topic, J2C, which requests approval of SPED contracts summing to $665,000. Back in early March, during one of the LCAP advisory meetings, one of the few participating parents asked a valid question of how does our SPED individual placement compare to the other California districts with the same size population. Finally, Dr. Jimenez responded late March that our SPED ed percentage is 14.5%, and the state's SPED ed percentage is 13%, but it didn't specifically address the comparison of individual placements to other districts. I would also like to better understand the SPED student population of our charter school. Do we serve more SPED in our non-charter schools, or do the charter have the opportunity to serve our SPED students? During the May 31st, a concern was brought up with a parent regarding SPED, so maybe it's time to look closely at our department's performance in SPED, special education. I urge you as a board to scrutinize all of our expenditures, evaluate their outcomes and performances, and focus on core priorities as Ms. Timbo highlighted on June 14th. It is time to really tighten the belt. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Pedro Avila, excuse me. Dr. Avila.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Board President. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello. Good afternoon, Board President, members of the board, Dr. Garcia, Superintendent Garcia. I just wanted to drop in and express appreciation to Dr. Garcia and her team, and also members of the board for the partnership that we have with Gavilan College. Dr. Garcia and I share the same vision of promoting a college-going culture. 2 years ago, she committed to bringing all of her high school seniors on our campus for a full day so that we can reintroduce them to Gavilan College. That really created a huge opportunity for many of your students who were on the fence about going to college. And we are seeing some really great results of students coming to Gav. That also created a lot of excitement with other districts. And I'm glad to report that this year, we had full participation from all districts in our service area that brought their high school seniors, including Morgan Hill Unified. We had over 1,000 seniors on our campus during a week that was dedicated to promoting GAV for high school seniors. And I also want to thank you, the board, and Dr. Garcia for our partnership with the dual enrollment program. That has been something that you were leading in our service area. You were the first district that signed off on our dual enrollment CCAP, and it's been a total success. And we're glad to be able to bring college courses to your students, to introduce them to college. And there's a ton of research that shows that students that graduated with college credit have a higher percentage of a college-going culture than students that don't. So again, I just want to thank you for your partnership. I want to show appreciation and support for Dr. Garcia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Avila. Our next speaker is Dini Shao.
Hi, good evening. And I do agree, dual credit is terrific. My son graduated with 9 units in dual credit and graduated a quarter earlier than all his friends. So that was terrific. But I did want to bring up a couple things from last Friday's meeting that I just kind of stood out to me as we talk about the budget today, and I'm sure the vote's going to go for approval. But when there was a comment, and I was in Zoom at that time, but someone said that we're not in a dire situation. And truth be told, we have about $48 million in reserves. It's true. We're not in a dire situation this year, but with overages of 15 to 17 million, easy math tells us that it's not far away. And the spend in 2022, 2023 with 5 new programs and over 100 people added, as I mentioned in a previous meeting, I really think was the bedrock of what caused this problem that we're dealing with when we could have this wonderful amount of one-time spend. The programs that we could bring in for 48 million if we weren't burning cash, just burning it, knowing that we can't sustain it and knowing that we have to do something about it with a budget advisory committee and possible paying for some of these programs, which are not bad programs in and of themselves, but maybe they needed to be dialed back just a little bit or started more slowly so that the impact could be understood. And that I think is the part that to me is dire, that the spending be overseen by the board, and that before things are approved, that there's really a lot of thoughtful consideration as to the long-term impact of some of these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ron, I'm sorry, LaCicero. Mr. LaCicero, come on up.
Thank you. I didn't come to bury Caesar. I came to praise Caesar. I want to thank the board for hanging in there this year. You've had a tough road to hoe. You've had a lot of people coming and whining and crying to you. You stood in there, you stood up, and you've done very well. I've had an opportunity to work with numerous people in the district. They've been both cordial and helpful. This young lady over here is working with me to get into the schools to get volunteers for Magical Bridge Playground. John Horner and Dr. Garcia have helped me immensely with the park, and we are working to get the schools to use the Morgan's Cove. You've all seen Morgan's Cove. If you haven't been there, Rich Ferrato will be glad to give you a tour. He's trying to set up all of the schools to come to his area for a lesson in California history. I know you can work through these problems. I would hope that the teachers, the administrators, and the school board work together. I know if all the oars are going in one direction, you can get through this. If you're not going to work together, and reminds me of my mom told me when I was young and noisy, you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you, sir. Our next, excuse me, our next speaker is Nick Gage on Zoom. Nick, can you hear us?
All right. Can you hear me
Nick,
now?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can
We
you hear
can
me?
hear you.
Oh, wonderful.
I can hear you.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Escoto, and fellow board trustees, as well as the community, for allowing me to speak tonight. Again, my name is Nick Gage, and I'm speaking to you tonight as a 39-year resident of Morgan Hill, with 2 graduates from Live Oak and 3 grandchildren currently in the Morgan Hill Unified School District program. I'm a very passionate supporter of improving pathways for all students who reside and attend in our Morgan Hill community. I believe that individuals who hold the esteemed position as superintendent must embody essential core leadership principles, especially in an environment of transformational change. Attributes such as courage, vision of what can be, a willingness and persistence to tackle all hurdles that will surely surface, operational execution skills appropriately balanced with empathy, relationship building, and transparency. All of which leads to a singular purpose: to empower those around them to become advocates of positive change, and in this case, to enrich and encourage our students to become their best selves in the course of their educational journey. I believe Dr. Garcia has demonstrated all of these qualities and more, and as such, support Dr. Garcia to continue her contributions and vision as Superintendent of the Morgan Hill Unified School District. And thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kathleen King, also on Zoom. Ms. King, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please,
Thank
you're
you.
ready to address the board.
Thank you so much for allowing me to do this by Zoom. It was a babysitting day for my grandchild. My name is Kathleen King, and I was the founder and retired CEO of Healthier Kids Foundation. And we work with a lot of districts, or I used to work with a lot of districts in the county, about 18 of them. And I do have to say Dr. Garcia stood out because I do appreciate a superintendent that partners well and can see the value of others raising the funds for the district. We did receive money every year from the city of Morgan Hill and from the county to do the work we did with Dr. Garcia. And it takes a lot to work with parents, teachers, partners, and of course, the board. Morgan Hill is just such a special place. It's just a great place to raise a family. And I think that there's a lot of turmoil in education right now. So I appreciate the consistency and calming influence Dr. Garcia has. I can't say more than most everybody has already said, but I do respect all the other speakers and just want to say ditto as well. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Cindy Ramirez.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Cindy Ramírez. Soy la presidenta de ILAC en la Escuela Piwash y la presidenta de DILAC. Soy voluntaria activa en las escuelas de mis 3 hijos. He estado involucrada en varias actividades del distrito y de la ciudad, pero uno de mis grandes objetivos es el aumento de la participación de los padres en las escuelas.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Ramirez. I'm the president of ELAC in Pia Walsh and president of DLAC. I'm a volunteer, an active volunteer in the schools of my 3 children. I have been involved in various activities from the district and from the city, but one of my biggest objectives is to increase participation of parents in the schools.
Por lo tanto, me ha tocado ser testiga del gran esfuerzo y trabajo de la doctora García y todo su equipo. Entiendo que muchas de las veces a todos no nos les gustan los cambios y más cuando los beneficios es para todos y no para unos cuantos.
I have had the opportunity to be a witness of the great efforts and work of Dr. Garcia and her team. I understand that many times not everyone likes the changes, and especially when the benefits are for all and not just for a few.
Este distrito está evolucionando a pesar de todos los desafíos que ha tenido. La comunidad se siente que su voz es escuchada y valorada, cosa que antes eso no sucedía.
This district is evolving despite all of the challenges that they have faced. The community feels that their voice is heard and valued, something that didn't exist before.
Siempre va a ser algunos que tengan una mala experiencia y otros que no les gusten los cambios. Pero para que esto siga por un mejor camino para beneficios de nuestros hijos, se requiere la unión de toda la comunidad.
There will always be some who have a bad experience and others who don't like change. But in order for this to continue on a better road for the benefit of our children, it is required that the community be united.
Y que ustedes, como nuestros líderes, tengan el compromiso por continuar luchando por nuestros estudiantes. Y por esa razón, les pido que hagan a un lado sus intereses personales, políticos y religiosos para continuar por el buen camino. Reconozcan los grandes cambios que se han hecho y sigamos trabajando juntos por un mismo objetivo, y gracias por la calificación satisfactoria que le dieron a la doctora García. Muchas gracias.
Okay, requires the unity of the community, and that you, as our leaders, have the commitment to continue fighting for our students. And for this reason, I ask that you put aside your own interests, personal, political, and religious, to continue down a good road. Recognize the great changes that have been done, and let's continue working together for the same objective. And thank you for giving a satisfactory rating to Dr. Garcia. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you. Gracias. Our last speaker is Vanessa Grant. Is she on Zoom? And Vanessa is on Zoom. Vanessa, can you hear me?
Hello, my brother is actually the one that is going to be reading the first part of my dad's letter. All right.
All right. Is you ready to present? Hello.
Dear Morgan
When
Hill,
you're ready, you can begin.
Dear Morgan Hill School District, my name is Nathan Grant, and I'm reading this letter on behalf of my dad, Jared Grant. I go to PA Walsh. I'm 10 years old, and let's start the letter. I would like to share some thoughts regarding my kids' experience at the school district and the direction of the school. A bit of background. My first kid started at Voices Academy. I chose Voices because of their academic focus, the school's culture that supports scholarship, activism, and Si Se Puede, and En La Queche, You Are My Other Me. We moved her to San Martin Gwyn because we wanted our boy who was starting school to have more room to play but continue with the bilingual education. That's me, by the way. We found San Martin to be challenged with a socio-economic and cultural divide that was not conducive to a good learning environment. Eventually, we pulled the kids from San Martin Gwyn and moved them back to Voices. We think that the school can benefit from finding ways to bridge the divide between the kids in the bilingual program and those in the English-only program. A year ago, we decided to move back to the school district because the middle schooler who was going through some challenges that required additional support. We were pleased to see that Britain had mental health support services that were available to our kid. She used the services, and today we still get postcards at home from the counselor. We recognize that middle school is simply a hard time for kids, regardless of the school. But we recognize the school district investment that has been made to support teachers and kids alike. We're offering kids a great experience. Thank you for this investment in infrastructure and human resources. There you go, Vanessa.
Hi,
Thank you. You did a great job. Hope we hear from you again. Please, Vanessa.
My name is Vanessa Grant. I attend Lewis H. Britton Middle School and I'm going into the 8th grade. Sorry, I'm trying to find where he left off. I also want to thank the district for investing in a partnership with Boys and Girls Club. Both of my kids get to go to the after-school program and get to make friends, do homework, and have fun, and perhaps stay out of trouble. You have made this seamless and effortless, and this is one of the greatest assets we see coming back to the district. Thank you. Please continue it. We know education can be a hard profession when we have limitations and deficits of financial resources and human capital. Our children are experiencing the same at home. Parents are working multiple shifts and trying to make ends meet. The school district serves as the safety net for many of our children. The school district provides not only education, but those needed resources and services like counseling, food, after-school programs that keep our families afloat and our kids thriving. I strongly endorse the direction of the school district. I am pleased to see more dedication and a stronger commitment to increase academic performance. We encourage the district to continue steadfast with the direction we are headed. Please extend the contract of the superintendent and continue the momentum underway. We ask the district on behalf of our kids' futures and make that the foundation by which you anchor your decisions and not by political pressures that arise when change is disrupting the status quo. On behalf of our kids, we ask you to be strong, be brave, be better, and let's hold each other accountable to continue the path of improvement and excellence. Sincerely, Jared Grant. P.S. I do have an ask for the district to consider. We should look at the school lunches and work to make them tasty for the children. If the lunches are healthy but the kids are not eating them, we are not feeding the kids. I heard that many of the kids that go to the after-school program show up hungry because they don't eat at school. Thank you for looking into this.
Vanessa, thank you very much. I also want to, again, thank your brother. Both of you did a great job. I hope we hear from both of you again in the future. All right, that concludes public comment. Oops, I'm sorry. We got one more. Sally Casas. Sally, there you go. Come on up, Sally.
Good evening. My name is Sally Casas. Dr. Carmen Garcia, board members. So I just want to say that Dr. Carmen Garcia is the first superintendent to approve the 14% raise to the teachers after years of denials by the last superintendent. When the union representative requested just meager percentage raises, they were still denied. Dr. Garcia has promoted special programs that address the whole child, supporting the social emotional health of each student. As far as the budget is concerned, attrition of teacher retirees has helped balance the budget and save funds. Change during the pandemic proved that many teachers were ready to move on and make room for those who embrace change to benefit the entire community. Thank you, Dr. Garcia.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. We'll now move on to reports, superintendent and staff.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President Escoto. I have a super brief report. Very timely, just this morning, you all heard from Sophia a little bit earlier. Assistant Superintendent Diana Jimenez and myself met with her. She represents the Morgan Hill Youth Action Climate Action Team. They wrote a grant and they received the grant for $10,000, and they're hoping to use most of it toward professional development for teachers, hourly time cards, and so on and so forth. And so we have a nice runway to plan the implementation of the grant that they applied for and received, and they're in the process of applying for additional grants. You know, I just have to say that our kids are absolutely brilliant, and it's so important for us to get out of their way, and that's precisely what we're doing with Sophia. We're definitely getting out of her way and supporting her any way that we can. Really, just a few highlights from our graduation. Central High School graduation. I always look forward to every graduation, but Central was especially special this year. And so I thank the entire team at Central for wrapping your arms around our students and for a successful graduation. We also participated in the Live Oak High School graduation, also equally impressive and empowering and full of heart and emotion. And so congratulations to all of our Acorns. Go Nuts. Also, the Sobrado High School graduation was also very powerful. And I extend my deep appreciation for the entire Sobrado staff, as well as the Live Oak staff, for supporting our students across the stage. Just a few pictures to highlight. Trustee Patterson, I don't think you noticed, but I caught you. It's a picture in the middle. I love that picture. Assistant Principal Nikki Vilea, she's hugging her daughter who's on her way to Florida. And Dr. Taylor, bottom left, Dr. Taylor is hugging her son. So beautiful, beautiful memories from Sobrado graduation as well. And we also participated in the Morgan Hill Community Adult School graduation. I would say that this was probably, I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I think this was probably my favorite. They're all amazing. This one was especially special again, because every single adult who walked across that stage went through so much to get that diploma. And so what a great lesson for us that it's we never give up and we don't give up on our dreams. So thank you, Community Adult School, and happy summer, everyone.
All right, now we'll move on to reports from employee groups. I see we have no report from our Classified Employee Association, nor do we have a report from our Morgan Hill Education Leaders. However, we do have a report from the president of the Morgan Hill Federation of Teachers, Jim Levis.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, President Escoto, Superintendent Garcia, staff, and guests. I am Jim Levis, the proud president of the Morgan Hill Federation of Teachers. I wanted to thank our Climate Action Pathways program interns, who unfortunately have left, but their analysis, suggestions were really very cool. I appreciated their look at efficient energy uses, coming up with ways for water, as well as increasing composting. So I think it's a great start, and I'm excited to see what they're able to build with that. So it sounds like a great program. After that, I would like to start off by saying goodbye to two more district employees, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Pat Sanchez, and Director of Fiscal Services, Lisa Lee. I've appreciated working with both of them, their professionalism and their honesty, and I wish them the best in the future. This loss of two more high-level employees, in addition to the two recent principal resignations, again begs the question, why? While I cannot provide the answers to that question, the board must see the ongoing departures of highly skilled district administration and management level employees and ask why. This is a continuing problem that cannot just be explained away as typical with a change in leadership. This continuing loss of experience, expertise, and institutional knowledge must be acknowledged and addressed. At last Friday's board meeting, continued from the June 4th regular meeting and scheduled during the day, the board discussed the proposed 24-25 district budget to be voted on later this evening. The budget presentation showed a continued structural deficit with potential continued unrestricted deficit spending of $32 million over the next 3 years, and budget cuts over the next 2 to 3 years of at least $16 million. These cuts include future additional cuts to the budget, which means additional cuts to programs and people of at least $10 million more than the cuts already identified for next year. This is $10 million in addition to the $5.2 million in budget cuts already scheduled for next year. This is a problem. In response to this ongoing disaster, the superintendent asked the board for their direction in two areas: the board's intent on continued deficit spending and the board's target for perceived or for percent reserves. The current board policy identifies a goal of 17% or approximately 2 months of expenses as reserves. I thank the superintendent for asking the board for this critical information. The question that I must ask is, why were these questions regarding the deficit spending and budget reserves not asked and discussed prior to or during all the changes that have been made over the last 3 years? I've asked this before, but I ask again, where was the plan? What was the plan? It appears that there was no plan. Why do I believe that there was no plan? Well, if there had been a plan, we would have been aware of it, these concerns, and we would have not been in this fiscal mess, still trying to figure out a plan to get out of this mess. The board has called for a budgetary advisory committee, as covered in their policies, to begin in the fall. This committee will, of course, only be advisory and will be charged with helping to identify areas of the budget that the superintendent may direct to be cut. I want to be clear that whatever the advisory committee recommends to the superintendent, and it is only advisory, this fiscal crisis is self-made and not the result of the state budget. Unfortunately, these reckless fiscal policies have already resulted in cuts to many supports for our most needy students. This budget advisory committee is not responsible for the budget problems that the district has gotten itself into and must not be used as a scapegoat for the cuts that are inevitable over the next 3 years. By the way, if there was a plan, why was this committee not formed as soon as this budget problem was identified instead of waiting until next fall? Regarding item K6, consideration and approval of amendment to term of the superintendent's employment contract, my following comments are made using the salary data from the 22-23 school year, which is the most current available by the state. The current contract has Superintendent Garcia making $297,000 in the 22-23 school year, and her contract runs for the next 2 years through June 2026. This is, of course, a 2-year contract. This is due to the 2-year contract extension provided by the previous board just prior to the board change in November of 2022. The contract changes from 2022 also gives the superintendent the same raises as the employees negotiate instead of the previous 3% for a satisfactory evaluation, and continues to allow the board to increase the salary at any time. This nearly $300,000 salary places Dr. Garcia number 13 in the county out of 29 reporting districts, which is the top 44%. As a comparison, the total compensation for a starting teacher in Morgan Hill Unified is $81,000, 25th out of the same 29 reporting districts, or the bottom 14%. A mid-range teacher in Morgan Hill with a bachelor's degree plus 60 additional college units and with 10 years experience receives $114,000 a year in total compensation, tracking 22nd out of the 29 districts, the bottom 25%. These salaries are also 8% and 5.5% below the median salary in the county. Even with the raises that all MHUSD employees have received and that were approved by the board, we are still in the bottom 5 to 8 districts, or the bottom 25% in the county. In other words, we are at the low end of the pay scale in Santa Clara County. Why does the superintendent warrant top 44% pay, but the teachers are in the bottom 14 to 24%? This coupled with the current fiscal crisis that we are now experiencing is a great question. As the board decides on any extensions or changes to the superintendent's contract, I ask you to acknowledge the current poor state of the district's finances, current salary, and current 2 years remaining on the superintendent's current contract. I would request that the board make no extensions or increases to the superintendent's contract at this time. I do not believe that she has earned it. Finally, the public has still not been informed of the criteria that the board used to evaluate the superintendent, and brought trustees Patterson, Rosales, Montes, Horner, and Escoto to vote to give her a satisfactory evaluation, while the trustees Altman, Eves-Knudsen, and Gardiner voted unsatisfactory. This failure in transparency makes it impossible for anyone to know any possible justification for changing the current term of her contract. This is a problem. As I brought up at the June 4th board meeting, Board Policy 2140, evaluation of the superintendent, states, at the open session after the superintendent's evaluation or at a subsequent meeting, the board and superintendent shall jointly identify performance goals for the next year. The board failed to identify these goals prior to this evaluation. So I request that at the next board meeting, the board publicly identify and present what those goals were. The public needs to know the criteria that the superintendent was evaluated under, both for last year and this next year. The evaluation vote was held on May 31st at the board retreat. there has still been no public statement at a board meeting indicating the results of the vote or identifying the performance goals for next year. I also still see nothing on this agenda for tonight's meeting. This is the second regular board meeting since the vote. When will the board provide the public with the performance goals for next year? Where is the transparency? Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to item I3, board reports. Anybody want to kick us off? Trustee Knudsen.
I will just be super brief. After attending several graduations and several promotions, it's a pleasure to see students successful and moving on in their student careers. And it was a pleasure to meet the administrators and teachers. And I hope everyone had a wonderful year. And I am looking forward to a wonderful vacation, and I hope they will as well. Thank you, teachers and staff, for everything that you do.
Thank you, Trustee. Vice President Altman.
I ditto to what Trustee Eves-Knudsen just said. And one graduation we need to mention is that she and I completed the Master's in Governance program. I finished while I was out camping. And so, I made it happen. Dedication. So we can shake each other's hands.
Nice.
Thank you.
Any other comments? And congratulations, by the way.
Shake hands.
We can. Trustee Horner.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few. The policy subcommittee, which I chair, met recently. Much of our work from that committee is here on the agenda tonight. I'll mention we also had a lengthy discussion with union leadership and a number of staff around the policy regarding intra and inter-district transfers and residency and whole complex area of policy. That discussion, I think, was I'll just say, fruitful both in near-term problem solving, which the superintendent took on, and will be a continued area of discussion at the policy subcommittee to bring to the full board later for further consideration. But I really appreciated the chance to have that dialogue and continue work on the complicated and important questions that touch many different aspects: legal, personal, educational, community. It's a complicated subject area, and I'm glad we're working on it. Also report that I attended the Chamber's Economic Development Committee meeting. That's a monthly meeting. This month's meeting was primarily focused on the City of Morgan Hill presenting its budget they do 2-year budget cycles. I commented on this briefly during our own budgetary meeting recently, but for anyone that missed that, the City of Morgan Hill is a much smaller entity than our school district, a couple hundred employees and a $56 million general fund, and anticipates $62 million of spending next year. About $6 million they're planning to spend out of their reserves. They're currently at about 26 reserves, and their current plan has that coming down to about 15% over the next few years, and they're forecasting them kind of leveling off there. So just information as we're in a parallel universe, but same town. I just wanted to share that with folks. Also can report that the Education Foundation Board met again. We continue working on really ironing out the process of granting out funds for this coming school year and how that will be ongoingly. A lot of thoughtful discussion about how that will work and make sure it's clear and fair and robust, so that the conversation we're having used to meet once every 2 months. We're now meeting at least once or twice a month as we just sort of iron out those details, but we're meeting again this Friday on that. And then tomorrow I have a one-on-one meeting with our County Office of Education trustee, Laurie. She has to get together and meet just to have a conversation about how the County Office of Ed can best support us, and how we can communicate more. We've not historically had regular and close communications with our trustee to SCOE. So I appreciate Trustee Laurie reaching out and hope to expand and continue those conversations, because all of us that care about the children of our community need to keep finding ways to work together. That concludes my report. Thank you all.
Thank you, Trustee Horner. Anyone else? Trustee Gardiner.
I just want to echo ditto what my colleague, Trustee Eves-Knudsen said. Thank you all for your hard work this year, and I hope you will all enjoy your summers.
Sorry, I didn't mention that. I agree to the ditto. I just didn't want to repeat it.
Anyone else? Trustee Patterson.
I'd like to ditto Trustee Gardiner. To all the staff present, thank you so much. And all the staff who are listening on Zoom, thank you for your efforts. We were notified, I was notified in my San Jose neighborhood about some goings on among the San Jose City Council for their meeting today around some proposed sites for sanctioned encampments, one of which was close to one of our schools. So I just want to thank the superintendent for writing a letter with some ideas and thoughts around why that might not be such a good idea. And I was also able to communicate my concerns as well to both District 10, where myself and other Sobrato students and families are residents, and that's Councilmember Arjun Batra, as well as Councilman Sergio Jimenez, who has number 2, which includes actually the site where Sobrato High School is, as well as some adjacent lands. So anyway, we're hoping for good news from the San Jose City Council meeting today that they're going to remove a proposed encampment, sanctioned encampment site near one of our schools. Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Horner, you might know more about this, but I've only recently been made aware that there's a proposal going to be on the November ballot, ACA 10, to reduce the threshold for passage of bond measures to 55% of the vote instead of 2/3 of the vote. And so if that makes it to the ballot, I'll be watching that closely, as I think all of us will, as many of us are deeply interested in passing a bond measure from Morgan Hill Unified School District. And then lastly, the adult school, which some of us are familiar with and some of us not. It's small and it operates kind of on a whole separate funding stream, a separate situation than what we're normally used to with our K-12 focus here, pre-K-12, was indeed inspirational. I have to think that out of the 20 grads that we honored and celebrated that night last week, that 90% of them were parents who were able to have a quote. They had their own quotes that were recorded as they took their diploma. Principal Sepien arranged this, I'm sure, with her staff. Thank you so much. Their quote was spoken aloud on the overhead mic as they each grabbed a diploma. And mostly what they wanted to tell us was that they were getting their diploma for their child. Many of these young children who are in the audience, and compelled their young children to make sure that they finished high school as they were doing on that night. And so Principal Sapien, thank you so much. And hats off to all of the adult school grads and all the work and the staff that goes into that.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. Trustee Montes.
Thank you, President Escoto. Colleagues, just one update. We had the city school liaison committee meeting that took place, and the chief provided us an update in terms of the ongoing progress with the diversion program that we have. And so since its establishment, 77 youth have been referred to the diversion program, 58 have completed it, 7 are pending acceptance into the program, and 4 have failed. Additionally, at the meeting, we had a presentation from Assistant City Manager Edith Ramirez, who talked about the mobility symposium, economic mobility symposium that I know a few people here attended, and just some data points that I wanted to elevate. 1 in 5 residents of Morgan Hill were born outside of the United States. And 80, approximately, according to the study, which is published on the city's website, 80% of residents speak a language other than English at home. The next meeting is on October 4th, but we used that opportunity. We talked about given this report, what are the opportunities to further collaborate based on the shared goals that we have identified, and those were community engagement, health and wellness, housing and homelessness, workforce development. So our superintendent is continuing to work with City Manager Turner on what tangible areas within these goals that we've identified will be our collective, some collective next steps. And so more to come in October.
Right. Anyone else? All right. I'm sorry. There was also the ad hoc committee, the budget ad hoc committee. Do you want to share any information about that? It's right up there.
Oh, wonderful. So,
by the way, that's not yours. Right?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, President Escoto. So as the board knows, we, Vice President Altman, President Escoto, and myself, along with the superintendent, met to develop the parameters regarding the board advisory, the budget advisory committee. And we have quite a few updates, and I'm going to kick it off to the superintendent to brief the board on these updates and what where we're at.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Trustee Rosales Montes. I'll begin by clarifying the record of a comment that was made earlier about where was the Budget Advisory Committee. We have always had a Budget Advisory Committee. It has been largely only been for our bargaining unions. We have representatives from Mahela, MHFT, and Mesilla. We have 2 trustees who sit on that. But that's it. And so what we are now doing is we are inviting additional voices to the Budget Advisory Committee. So I'd like to begin by sharing, if you can look at this visual as a 3-parter, but let's begin at the top. So the top describes the MHUSD Board of Trustees timeline. And so in July, we will be issuing the Budget Advisory BOC for sure. The application will be open to our entire school community. And so that will be open from July 1st to July 26th. After this presentation, I can share a draft of the application. In August, the board will conduct a board retreat to identify the strategic priorities that will guide the BOC's work. In October, we will hold a couple of budget community forums. We've identified these dates as October 3rd and the 10th. In November, the BOC will present its initial recommendations to the board for feedback. And then in December, during the first interim report, the BOC will present the final recommendations to the board, and the budget stabilization plan to the Santa Clara County Office of Ed will be submitted. Anything past December is statutory in nature. So typically in January, the governor issues his initial budget. In March, if needed, we will, if needed, issue layoffs, and that will all depend on the work that takes place in the first 6 months. But also in March, we present to the board the second interim report. In May, the governor updates his budget. It's the May revise. And if needed, we finalize layoffs. And in June, the board adopts the budget. Now, the bottom left, that's the timeline for the Budget Advisory Committee. So again, from left to right, the BOC applications will be available from July 1st through July 26th. The ad hoc committee will convene soon after and make the final selection of the participants. In August, the BOC will meet 2 times from 6 to 8 p.m. We've already identified the time. We will provide food, childcare, and simultaneous translation will be provided. The first meeting will be August the 8th, where the BOC will establish norms, board priorities, and also the North Star of their work. They will again meet August 22nd. The BOC will again meet in September 5th, September 5th, and then September 19th. The BOC will also conduct a couple of community forums, October 3rd and October 10th. The BOC will continue its work in October. They'll meet October the 17th, again, November the 7th. They'll present to the board their initial findings in November during the November 17th board meeting. And then we'll meet again as a BOC December the 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. and then present the final recommendations to the board December 17th. On the right-hand side is the composition of the BOC. The board, they will be implementing the board's strategic priorities that will guide their work. Their meetings will be in person from 6 to 8 p.m. We will provide food, childcare, and simultaneous translation. On the left-hand side, you see the staff membership. There will be 2 representatives from MHFT that MHFT will select. We will have 2 representatives from MASIA that MASIA will select. 2 representatives from Mahela, 1 from the site and 1 from the district. Mahela will select, and 2 board trustees. On the right-hand side is our community representation. So we'll have 2 high school students and 8 community members, 1 elementary parent, 1 middle school parent, 1 high school parent, 1 K-8 or alternative ed parent, and 4 community-based organizations or higher ed partners. It is incredibly important at the bottom, all the way at the bottom in the asterisk in the selection of these members. We need to ensure that they reflect the community that we serve. So socioeconomically diverse, ethnic and racial diversity, special education, geographic diversity, gender diversity, and linguistic diversity as well. This is a summary of the work that we're very busy on Friday, and so does the board want to see the application? The application basically, it's a little bit of a mirror. It talks about the dates. We're asking for commitment. We're asking for the members to attend every session, and also to follow the board's strategic priorities, and to do a feedback loop of sorts. They are representatives of their constituents. So whenever we don't meet, we are asking them to go back to the respective constituents, and then they bring back the feedback. Would you like me to pull up the application? Or, okay, we'll do that. 1 tiny second.
Is that it?
I just need to pull up the application.
Okay.
Should have helped me work really hard on those graphics in the meeting.
That would be an entire team effort. So thank you, team, for helping with these graphics. So this is what I said earlier. The application period will be open from July 1st through the 26th. I have to mention that these applications will be in multiple languages. They will be in print format, and also electronically. And so you see the dates there. The BOG will be meeting from 6 to 8 p.m. You see the dates there. Oops, I don't know why it's highlighted. Again, the description of food, childcare, simultaneous translation, the member composition, and in bold is what I described earlier. Executive cabinet, we will be sitting in and supporting, but we're also very, very interested in what the committee, so we'll be hearing what the committee is interested. I have to back up. These are, and it's right here in the paragraph, the BOC shall develop recommendations following the board's strategic budget priorities. This term is through December 2024, and its duties shall be assigned each year based on district needs. All recommendations of the committee shall be advisory only and shall not be binding on the board. The board will make their ultimate, the final decisions. So you see here, email, first name, last name, email to reach, etc. There will be opportunities. We know we have parents that have multiple kids at multiple levels, elementary, middle, and high. And so parents will be able to select all that apply. The high school students are able to tell us where they go to school. And here is the breakdown of the various grade spans, the name of the school. And you'll see it repeated only because in case parents have multiple kids. And so you see that repeated again. Let me keep scrolling down. And there are parents that have at least 4 kids. So this is if you have 5 kids, 6 kids, 7. Okay, and this is these sections are for the community-based organizations, higher ed, City of Morgan Hill, Chamber of Commerce. What organization do you represent? Are you a parent in the district? What's your race, ethnicity? Do you speak multiple languages? What's your gender? And then this is what I wanted to get to. Why do you want to be a part of the Budget Advisory Committee? Free form completely. What qualities do you bring and or can contribute to the Budget Advisory Committee? And by applying for this role, do you understand and commit to the role outlined above by attending all scheduled meetings, gathering, sharing feedback to and from your constituents, and following and maintaining all established norms as determined by the BUC? That concludes the work of the ad hoc committee.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Are there any questions of Dr. Garcia or budget ad hoc members? Trustee Montes and Vice President Altman and myself. Trustee Gardiner.
Yes, please. I would like to ask if we could please get those emailed to us.
Yes, we wanted to for sure with the board, and we will be sending out, yes, absolutely. And we'll be sharing with our entire community.
Okay. And then just real quick, how are the parents going to know which box to mark? You said there were like 7 different spots. So if are they just supposed to pick a school, or
Yeah,
how they
the survey is very intuitive. It'll say, you know, what grade does your child is your child a part of, and then name your school. And it gives them the option, if they have more than one student, then they get to fill that out again. And we did that because the ad hoc committee is going to be looking over all of these applications and making the decision for the member composition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Trustee Patterson.
This isn't, I understand. Are we in the superintendent's report right now? This wasn't agendized. Oh, this was Mr. Rosales Montes. Just a comment, I guess, when the ad hoc committee is reviewing the applications, I would suggest there, maybe you already talked about this, be no names, just the data, not the names of the individuals. I think it would make it easier on all of you.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Absolutely.
I would appreciate, receiving these documents so I can look them over more clearly. And I'm just really impressed by the amount of work you did on a Friday afternoon after we had already met for 2 hours on the budget. Thank you, the 3 of you and the superintendent, so much. I really appreciate the effort.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. Any other comments? No. All right, not hearing any, so we'll move on. Moving on to J, consent items. We have some public comment. Oh, already spoke on this? Okay, I'm sorry. We don't have any public comments on that. So we'll move on to approve tonight's consent items. Are there any trustees who would like to pull an item for further discussion?
I would like,
Vice President Altman.
Thank you, President Escoto. I would like to pull J1G, please.
J.
And I would like to pull J2A.
J2A.
One item on one of the SIPSs.
All right. Got it. Was that Trustee Gardiner?
Yeah. Hi, I'd like to pull item J1E and pull agenda item J1F.
J1E and J1F. Okay, got it. So we do have public comment. Anahita Yazdi.
Is this on?
On an item that didn't get pulled.
Okay.
Yeah, should be.
Okay.
Which item are you speaking on?
J1 items, J1E, J1F, and J2D.
Excuse me. So we're going to be discussing those later. I believe if we just pull those off consent, is that correct? All 3? Were there 3, Ms. Young?
No. 2D was not pulled.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Which ones were pulled again?
The ones we're pulling is J1G, J2A, J1E, and J1F.
Okay, so that would be 2 of the comments I was about to make, leaving 1 more still on the J items. So do I not make a comment on the J1E and 1F?
Yeah. Discuss later.
You can come back.
Yes.
Oh, I can come back. Okay.
Got it.
Great. More of me.
Too deep.
I know, let's get to 2D. Now that I have a little bit more time, I just want to also echo much of what Mr. Levis said. The community is concerned and stands with our teachers in demanding transparency and bringing financial stability. And I'm glad to see the Budget Advisory Committee slowly forming. With that, let's dive into J2D. The district is requesting to implement Haggerty curriculum for about $110K of unrestricted funds, which I actually want to know, is this an annual cost, a one-time cost? While I am beyond glad to see the shift to reading curriculum rooted in science of reading, I do like to better understand the cost comparison of UFly versus Haggerty. Given our financial situation, would one curriculum be more cost effective than the other? Was the cost one of the factors in making this decision? Not that I have any recommendation, I just urge the board to scrutinize all of our expenditures, evaluating their outcomes and performance and focusing on core priorities, as was highlighted by Ms. Timbo on June 14th. This is peeling the onion on what truly matters in terms of student impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to these items, right? All right. So now we're going to discuss J1.
If I may, Mr. President, can I
Yes.
make a motion to approve the consent items not pulled?
Excuse me, I'd like to pull a J4A.
J4A. Got it. All right. And
I'd like to second Mr. Horner's motion to approve the remaining consent calendar items.
okay, everybody got that? Or do you want me to read the items that have been pulled? I've got them all. All right. So all those in favor of approving the consent items minus the ones that have been pulled, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right. Motion carries. And so now we'll begin with J1G.
Mr. Escoto?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but since we have our presenters here from Charter School Morgan Hill, can we just proceed with K1?
If
And
colleagues,
the
if you're in
rest of the
agreement with that,
items and
And then
leave
come
these
back to consent.
consent items to later.
sounds good. Thank you for the suggestion.
Well, so we have a request here for a 5-minute necessity break.
Oh, okay. Then we will do that if you don't mind. We're going to take a 5-minute break. And all right, thank you, Paige. All right, so we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll reconvene at 7:56. And we'll begin with item J1G. Who pulled that one? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Paige. I'm sorry.
You said you wanted
already.
to stay.
It's not even 8 o'clock, and I'm checking out, Paige. So come on up.
Good evening, everyone. So this item contains two different attachments. The first attachment is the annual visit review letter that was provided on behalf of Morgan Hill Unified School District, fulfilling the obligation as the authorizer. And then the second item attached is the presentation by the Charter School of Morgan Hill. And so I will turn it over to staff from Charter School Morgan Hill.
Thank you. Please. Welcome, Paige.
Thank you for having me. I feel like this year has flown by, and I feel like I was just here yesterday, but yet it feels like it's also been a long year in so many ways. So thank you for having us tonight. And I also have my principal, Susan Pfefferlin, with me. And thank you, Trustee Horner, for coming to our graduation the other day, and Dr. Garcia for coming in and seeing our 8th grade exit projects. Appreciate that support from the district. So thank you. And Karina, our wonderful board member back there, she has been awesome. And we appreciated our visit from Julie and Cindy. So thank you. It was great to be able to collaborate. And I picked their brains while they were there for lots of great information. So we're just going to be quick tonight because I know you have a long agenda and you've had some long meetings. So I'm going to zoom through and let you guys get on with things. So if you go to the next slide, we had some great celebrations this year. We do an annual bike to school day because our kids can't bike to school. And so we had over 250 riders this year. They braved a very, very cold morning to bike to school along the back path at the golf course and come through. We had a couple of new kids this year, which we do every year, and it's always an exciting school. 5th graders do an annual plant sale where they sell organic plants and raise them all from seeds, and they were dressed as very cute little bumblebees this year and did a very profitable couple days of plant sale. We had an amazing talent show. It always puts me in awe as to some of the talents that are within our school that I never even knew existed. And they get up there and just blow us all out of the water. I think one of my most special moments, though, was we had a little 1st grader who kind of struggled a little bit with a song, and the entire audience of kids joined in and helped her finish her performance. And it brought tears to your eyes. We can go to the next slide. We had a whole group of graduates come back this year. There were quite a few of them over the winter break to unbury their time capsule that they had buried in the back field. And they were excited to do that. And we were excited to see them and to hear about how they are doing in their college careers right now. We always want to highlight PBL because project-based learning is what we're all about. And we are always focused on that and is the cornerstone of our school. We've had a couple challenges this year. As you know, the whole theme of my presentation is construction. That is the theme of our last probably 2 years. We lost lots and lots of playground space this year. So we took over the track in the back. And while I cannot tell you how much laps kids will do and will walk for a little bitty foot to put on a charm from Oriental Trading. They spent hours out on the track at lunchtime walking for their little foot. So that ended up being a great program that we started, the Cheetah Mileage Program. And moving has been the theme of our year. Over the winter break, we moved 19 teachers to different classrooms between December 21st, I think, and January 9th. You can ask me what I did for my holiday vacation with my family. We got Christmas off, though. I did give them Christmas Day off. That was it. We did a lot of moving. And then at the end of the year, we have moved, I didn't even count. Probably another 15 people. We finished school on June 12th and just kept on working until the end of the day and all day yesterday and all day today. And we have now moved out of our office and are in a classroom. I think by the time we get done, we'll have moved the library to 3 different locations. So it's definitely been a challenge, and I can't thank my staff enough for their resilience and their smiles and their ability to chip in and work through this. So they've been amazing. Go to the next slide. Just a couple quick pictures. We did open in January our new classroom building. So that's the picture on the left is when we first started, and the picture on the right is after we opened it when the kids came back in January. So that was the first time in these new classrooms. They're very open, very innovative, and we are still working on it and adjusting, but our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade team has done a magnificent job moving into that building and thinking about different ways that we can do things with students to make education more successful for them. And on the next slide, we have the office being started here, and it's got a student center in it, a beautiful new kind of library student center, innovation lab, and that'll be the new offices. And it's a little bit more done than that picture, but that's where we are now. And we are hoping, with all fingers crossed, that it'll be ready to go the first day of the 24-25 school year. We still have a barn project to finish up, and that'll probably go into September and October. Okay. The other big accomplishment this year is we had a CSMH safety committee. This committee was a group of parents, many of them police officers, firefighters, public service people. And we really looked at school safety this year and updated our school safety plan. Our school safety plan went from about 25 pages to about 185 pages by the time we are done. So I think we have thought through every possible scenario that there possibly could be. We've gone through emergency backpacks, replenished all of those. We are currently in the process of rekeying the whole school. Since we had so many new doors and new locks, we felt this would be a really good time to do that. It probably hasn't been rekeyed for 40 years, and who knows how many of our 3,000 keys are out there. We added some cameras, worked on our phones and PA systems. And then also we did some training for parents around cybersecurity with their kids with the San Jose PD. They also came out and did some training with our 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And then we've been doing some staff development around safety. So safety has been a really big focus this year as we're changing the look of the campus. We thought it was a really good time to look at, with our new campus, how are we going to address some of the new safety needs that new campus is bringing about. All right. Just a quick review. We are finishing up our 23-24 LCAP. And so we had our goals around curriculum and the whole child philosophy. Some of the things I just want to highlight real quick here is, again, our project-based learning continues to be our focus, and we've done a lot of work around universal design for learning to make sure all kids have access to curriculum. And then, of course, that socially emotional learning piece, we continue to provide lessons to students. We had gone second step, K through 8th, was the curriculum we had adopted. Some of our grade levels were not felt that matched their grade levels. So our K and first kindergarten K and first grade have switched to the Little Spot program, which they have found very successful. And then we have been doing a lot of work in our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade around a program called Cyber Civics. And so more around how do you be a good person online, and have been doing some work on that. we've had academic success. We continue to give our MAP test and look at our MAP data. And then on our English language arts dashboard, we were in the blue area, and in mathematics, we were in the green area this last year. And I'm going to dig into that a little bit more in a couple of slides going forward. The next slide. In English language arts, as you can see, our blue students are there. You can see, it's still our students with disabilities that we need to continue to focus on and concentrate on. We would like to close that gap a little bit more. And one of the reasons that we're really looking at universal design for learning. And in the other groups, we were in either green or blue. I think with our socioeconomically disadvantaged, being in the blue in mathematics, I think is something that we are all really proud of this past year. And then with our English language arts, I thought it was in there. Is it back? Oh, there we go. We are in the blue there. Again, our students with disabilities, our socioeconomically disadvantaged were in the green, and our other subcategories in this particular area were in the blue. So we've been digging into some of that data. Okay, and the modern learning environment, we obviously have done a lot around this goal in the last 3 years, and we'll continue to focus on that in the next couple years. It's definitely not done. We are always replacing Chromebooks, have been adding some iPads, and we did some major work on our internet service and access points this year. And so that's been very helpful. And then the last goal in our LCAP is the inclusive environment, with parents being an essential partner. We continue to do quite a few community events. Diana Gill, our community person, has been wonderful with that. But we did a lot of parent education series this year. Like I said, we did some around internet safety, and then we did a 4 different classroom courses on positive parenting series. And we brought in a trainer from the outside to do that course. 3 of those were via Zoom, and then 1 of them we did in person. And then we are always working on communication tools with our parents, and have found Parent Square to probably be our best way of communicating with our community. And then part of that last goal is our diversity and inclusion. So I've included that data for the district. I know the district's always interested in our SED. We didn't have a huge movement between the 22-23 and the 23-24 year. I have to say some of that might be our fault, that we didn't have quite enough bandwidth to really go after the free and reduced lunch applications this year like we have in the past, especially now that everybody gets free lunch. It's much more difficult to convince parents to fill out those applications. So that is an area we'll be working on next year. What I am really happy about, which isn't in this data yet, is, as you know, a couple of years ago, we changed our lottery to give free and reduced lunch students a priority in our kindergarten. And so they fill the first 10%. And then after that, they get a 2-to-1 weight in the lottery. In the past, we've never had enough students apply to necessarily fill that whole 10%. This year, we actually had more applications than spots in that area. So all of those spots were filled in that first 10%. And then an additional students filled that area as well. So our kindergarten class this year that we just went through the lottery with is going to be at an 18% socioeconomic disadvantaged group there. So I feel like the outreach we've been doing and some of the things we've been putting in place are starting to pay off in our lower grades. And so I'm hoping to continue to see that number move. And then our next slide is about our new LCAP goals, our upcoming 24-25. Again, we're looking at the social, emotional, and mental well-being of students. I think that's been a concern on everybody's mind. Continuing with the PBL and UDL. UDL is definitely going to take some time to implement, and continued training is needed. We're really looking at in that goal too. I have a very experienced staff. I'm very lucky that way. And as we bring in new staff members, how do we give them the training and the support that they need to continue around our mission and vision? We're going to continue with our academic achievement and growth and focus on that. Originally that goal, but was divided into two different areas, math and reading. And after talking with the staff and getting some input from the administration team, we combined it into one, so that we can personalize our professional development directly around what teachers need. So some of our teachers already have a lot of professional development nests around mathematics, so they really might want to focus more on the science of reading and vice versa. So we're going to really try to personalize our staff development in that area. And then, of course, the modern and safe learning spaces. And a lot of the things that our safety committee came up with is our actions within in that goal. And then also we're looking at flexible furniture and other projects that we are doing around the school as the school continues to be upgraded and remodeled. And of course, you have to put money to that, so that always helps. Just a little bit of where we are, but budget-wise, we have a $9.2 million budget, not quite as big as yours, a little easier to manage. 80% of that does go to personnel. We have books and supplies are at about 6%, our operating costs at around 11%, and then 3% are different other areas that are in there as well, kind of miscellaneous stuff. Our budget outlook right now is good for next year. We will be presenting a close to balanced budget to our board next week, and then looking at our multi-year projections. We will have to start paying back on the state loan, and so those are in there as well. And so the multi-year projection at this point looks pretty strong. I think that's it. Is that the last slide, Kelly? Okay.
Thank you, Peg.
I talked fast.
Colleagues, questions, comments? Anyone?
I have several if no one else is eager to go.
Trustee Warren, please.
Great job.
Get you warmed up here.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Thank you very much. As usual, I have no question about the quality of program and intention at the site. Ongoing questions. One thing is, as we look at our budget, special education continues to be a large expense. And when I've looked at your budget documents, I don't even see a special education account. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong document. But we routinely now are having to transfer about 16% of our general funds to backfill special education because the extraordinary number of students and extraordinary level of need we serve. And I'm just wondering, it seems to me like Charter School Morgan Hill is not serving nearly as high a percentage of students or students with extreme needs as we are, based on what I can find. Am I misunderstanding the information, or is there somewhere else I should look?
So we do serve mild to moderate and moderate to severe.
And about how many? You have 654 students?
We have 654 kids, and our numbers have gone up a lot this year. So we're probably right around 10%.
Okay.
Our SELPA would love us to be around 8%. But we are probably around 10%. We also do have students who have been in MPS placements because we haven't been able to meet their needs at our school.
Non-public schools.
Non-public schools. And we do have a student in a residential placement as well. So I actually just did the special education numbers. What we get from the state and the federal government is, and don't quote me on the exact, but I want to say it's around 490,000. I actually could look, I have it in my backpack. And we probably spend close to over $1 million. So we do have to go into our general fund quite a bit for special education.
Ratio-wise, not as significant as here. You're seeing some of that, but not to the degree. Yeah. Related question. I was looking at, percent homeless, which this is under, I assume, the federal McKinney-Vento, categorization, which is the broadest categorization. But I see in your reports at 0.2%, which if I do the math, that's 1 or 2 kids. So that's, I guess, just point out that's very different from what we're experiencing in the rest of the district schools. We're at around 800 of our students that are experiencing that. So just pointing out, again, in terms of the level of need, our traditionally managed public schools here in Morgan Hill are serving a higher level of need students than you are. And I'm wondering too, at the charter school, do you ever have students arrive mid-year? I would think with like your annual lottery enrollment process, that's not a thing. I mean, we have students showing up from war-torn countries, all sorts of places with extreme need, but I'm assuming that's something you don't serve those students because of the annual process. And is my assumption correct?
So I'm going to comment on both of those.
Please.
So
this is first of all, dialogue, not a monologue.
Okay. First of all, around homeless, one of the things that we don't do or have done in the past and probably need to do in the future is how we count homeless. Homeless actually is if a family is living with, for example, grandparents or something like that and don't own the home, they're considered homeless in the
McKinney-Vento federal.
Right, and we don't record all that and do that, and so we probably should to get more accurate numbers as well. It would probably help in my supplemental and unduplicated. We have never done that. I can tell you we have quite a few families who are living in multiple family kind of situations, and we've never counted them or considered them unhoused. So we probably need to do a better job at that, so those numbers are more accurate. The second one was around
kind of mid-year arrival.
Mid-year arrival. We do have students who leave mid-year, but we do have a waiting list. And so what we have to do is go to the very next person on the waiting list. So we do have our turnover is pretty small overall as a school. I think out of our 72 graduates, how many were with us? 51 have been with us since kindergarten. So, our turnover rate is not huge. But if there is a seat that becomes vacant in the middle of the year, it is filled.
Right. It's filled, but not by somebody who just showed up from a war-torn country, for example.
We've had a few from a war-torn country, but.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. That's my questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Horner. Anyone else? Trustee Montes.
Thank you, President Escoto. Thank you for the presentation tonight and the updates. It was great to see your program, visit your classrooms, and read to the kiddos when you had the event. I appreciated that. My question, I appreciate the update two questions. One, I know our staff provided a letter with some recommendations to you. Based on the recommendations, can you provide us an update in terms of your thinking of possible next steps based on the recommendations, or where are you all at?
Is there a specific recommendation you're thinking about? I'd have to peek at. I actually brought the letter as well, but I have to peek at it to.
Well, I wanted to see kind of where you're at. There's one area in particular that I was going to follow up on with my colleague here, but just in general, based on the recommendations, any next steps that were identified?
Definitely read through them. There's, I think, were some great suggestions and recommendations. I think a few things, for example, on our website or something like that, that are easy fixes or so forth. So definitely we'll go through it and
appreciate the update. The just following up on my colleague and appreciate the efforts, you know, the 10% that were put aside for the kindergartners. I know that when I first came on the board, one of the items that we did is the 5-year renewal for the charter school. And back then we were looking at the data, and based on the trends that have been happening year over year, I'm wondering what it would take for it to be met in terms of if we were to take socioeconomically disadvantaged to have, looking at the initiatives that you all had to actually move the needle, looking at last year to this year, or sorry, 22, 23 to 23, 24, and the change in percentage there. I'm wondering, what would it actually look like to significantly address that area to make a change? Because so that's a question that I'm posing. One, when we're looking at just what it's at the greater community and where it's at the charter school. You know, question that I'm exploring here with you, but one that I'm thinking about, because I know that when we review, that's still an area of growth that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like I said, I feel like we, this year for kindergarten, we really saw our outreach worked. We had, like I said, more students applying. It's the only place we really have openings is in the kindergarten. So we really target that. We do our mailers directly to households that have children that are probably within a certain age range, and then also within a socioeconomic range. So we do some very targeted advertising and very targeted flyers that way. And like I said, this year we had more applicants than even that 10%. And so we really did, I think, start to push that needle in the lottery for the first time, where I feel like some of that legwork is starting to pay off.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, you know, the intentionality with these steps. And when I reflect on that, I just think the number of years that it would take for that to get to where it possibly should be, well, it's quite a few, right? So I'm wondering what else could possibly, what other efforts that could look like. And all that to say, I think you have a great program, and it's more so of like in this area, with the changes, what other possible solutions could be implemented? Because just the long-term time that it would take to get close to that percentage would be significant.
Yeah. And I'm up for any other suggestions. I mean, the problem is, right, it has to be a lottery. We can't decide who gets to come or who doesn't get to come or anything like that. So the numbers are literally, you know, all put in there, and the positions are lotteried off. So that is a challenge as well.
If I could follow up on that.
Please do. Trustee Patterson.
It seems like now, if you had more than your 10% apply for kindergarten slots, then now are those families that exceeded your slots on the wait list?
Some of them, but then others got in as well in the 2-to-1 area.
Right.
So because they had a little bit of more of a weighted ball. The other thing that's happening too, that's going to happen over time, and we'll see with this group, is our numbers are growing at the lower grade levels than they are at the higher grade levels, right? So the kids that got in this year, that 18%, probably within the next year or two, because they're all new, many of them are new students, will more than likely have siblings that come in, and then will also fall within that category. So we are seeing more growth in our K-1-2 area since we've done this. That's why some of those other kids got in, because they've got siblings from prior years that were also got in because of that 10% number.
Right. What I was thinking was, if you had 72 grads and 51 of them were with you since kindergarten, and you had almost 20 slots open over the course of the 9-year, right? And as your wait list continues to populate, if it is indeed populating with these excess applicants of lower socioeconomic status, then eventually, when one of those rare slots opens, it could be taken up by somebody, which is another way to boost as time goes on. But I'm sure my colleague's right. It seems to be happening maybe at a faster pace than it was before. And I guess next year and the year after will prove that to be true or not.
Yes, please. Trustee Knudsen.
I just wanted to check and see if you had buses or extra transportation that are available for students. I know it's up and down.
So we did have a bus. Our bus is no longer CARB compliant. So our bus is sitting over at the parking lot over at the district. If anybody wants a bus, let me know. I have one for sale, really, really cheap. It only can be used for a camper. And then we were actually working with the district at the beginning of this year to do busing with us, had met with the Department of Transportation, and we're really hoping to get that going. And unfortunately, the district lost some drivers. And so obviously those drivers are going to go to Morgan Hill people before being able to contract out for CSMH, but we are still in discussions with them and are very, very hopeful that we will be able to contract with Morgan Hill Unified to provide some busing. So we keep advertising for bus drivers for Morgan Hill Unified. Anybody I see, I say, you really need to go become a bus driver.
Other questions, comments? Vice President Altman.
Thank you. You had mentioned that until this year, you haven't been able to fill that 10%. And are you pretty confident moving forward, you're going to be able to fill the seats available for the SED students?
That is our goal, yes. And we will continue to reach out and advertise and recruit for that.
And did you do something differently to increase the number of applicants?
Like I said, I think we've just been very purposeful on what we've been doing. We've been very targeted on it. So I would say that's, even where we do our advertising, like in newspapers and things like that, we just don't go anywhere. We become very targeted and send home those postcards and take those postcards and talk at preschools so we just really have tried to target who we're recruiting, not just a general here, we're going into the lottery time.
Anything else? Trustee Horner.
Thank you for the discussion. Yeah, just one follow on that 10%, now that you're routinely filling, it seems small. When Joint Venture Silicon Valley talked about the demographics of our community, they put it at least 30% of people are, struggle to pay their living expenses. There's all different ways of characterizing socioeconomically disadvantaged. The free and reduced lunch application, that's on a, federal standard, but when at Morgan Hill Unified, we're at 40% of our students, you don't have to apply, you just show up, are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And you talk about a 10%, preference or set aside. Well, why not 30 or 40% to more match the community?
I mean, that could always be something we could discuss at the next lottery renewal or even before then, I think there are some concerns as far as the legal side. Even with the SED, we're pushing the envelope a little bit. And I think that if we would all of a sudden start to say 40 or 50%, I think there could be some legal questions about that.
Understood. Thank you. It just needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
I worry about, well, I'll just say it this way. We're a better community when our students from all different circumstances are learning together. I'll just say it that way. Yeah. And there's still a long ways to go there. And I think of, when I was in school as a kid, my parents sent me to a little private Christian school because they didn't want me going to school with those kids. So that I lived that reality, and I know to think that way. I've worked hard that person as an adult, and no disrespect to my parents, that was common amongst their peer group at the time to think that way. But I've come to believe now that, we're the best community the more we are, all learning and progressing together.
I agree 100%.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Trustee Gardiner.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. I thought this was a great presentation. And I just really wanted to highlight that. Thank you for staying with the 80-20 rule with the budget for the personnel. Thank you for that.
Any other comments? Trustee Patterson.
Yeah, and just the academic performance is just really impressive. And I'm, my hat's off. And I know that we're hopeful and been able to share some lessons back and forth with some of the outstanding practices in the Morgan Hill Unified School District, as well as the outstanding instructional practices at Charter School Morgan Hill. So thank you for that collaboration. I know we've always endeavored to try to share more of that, and then, time runs out. But anyway, congratulations.
Thank you. And I just want to say too, I've appreciated some of the ideas around chronic absenteeism and attendance that I have gotten from the district. I know they recently got an award with that. And I have definitely been picking brains around that area because, like schools all over California, we are struggling with that more than we ever have as well. It is our lowest one on the indicator. We're only in orange, and really trying to, so I appreciated all the great ideas that I received from reading all the district stuff about that. So you guys are doing a great job there. Thank you.
Any other comments? Paige, I just want to share with you, thank you again for the presentation. We've had a long history, both professionally and personally. My staff, when we were looking at doing project-based learning, you were gracious enough to allow your teachers to meet with my teachers, and they spent quite a bit of time together learning from each other. And so I'm still incredibly thankful for that. Also, personally, my twin grandsons, who were members of your first kinder cohort group out of the Dollar Tree, they just celebrated their 28th birthday. And so, yeah, I'm feeling pretty lucky to not only have them grow up to be good men, but much of that foundation was at charter school. And so I'm thankful for that as well. So thank you, Paige.
Thank you. And say hello to them for me.
Will do. All right. All right, so now we're going to move back to the J's. And I think first up, I'm going to talk about, I think we had J1E is the first one we need to discuss. Colleague, which one pulled, who pulled that one?
Oh, yeah, okay. So you're going to go in alphabetical order, is that?
Yeah, in the Yeah, as
Okay.
they're listed.
So I pulled that one because I would like to know, and maybe Ms. Timbo or Superintendent Garcia can speak to this. Are there any monies coming from the general fund to pay for the ELOP, which for the public is an Expanded Learning Opportunities Program? And if you could share how the ELOP is funded, i.e. which funds pay for that or pay for it, I'd greatly appreciate it.
So in short, no, general fund does not pay for the before and after school program. The bulk of the ELOP, the Amplify program, is paid for by the ELOP grant that's given by the state of California. We also have 21st Century and ACES grants that are specifically targeted for before and after school programs. And so for families who qualify for free or reduced lunch, it is absolutely free. For those that do not, we currently charge them $200. So there is a supplement to the budget when it's parent paid. So currently, yes, the general fund does not pay for this program.
Thank you. I did see those grants in there, but I wasn't sure how much of it was paid by those. So you're saying 100% is paid by the grants and the state?
Yes, in addition to the $200 that the families pay for the program. Yeah, so it's mainly grants. It's not general fund.
Thank you.
So we can have a motion on this now. All right. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve J1A?
So moved. Motion to approve.
Wait, is that E or
E?
J1E, I'm sorry.
Delegation of authority to the superintendent designee to enter into Amplify ELOP contracts.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next item is J1F. Who pulled that one?
That would be me as well. Okay. What I wanted to find out is if we have received 3 requests for quotes, and I'm concerned that there are 3 vacancies on the Measure G Oversight Committee, and would like to table this potentially until there is a full committee can review the details of this contract to make sure we are securing a cost competitive solution. So again, if Ms. Timbo or Superintendent Garcia could speak to that, really appreciate it.
Yes, we will go. That's why we're looking at the delegation of authority, because we need to continue moving through the quote process. And technology is handled a little bit differently under the public contract code. So we will be working through that process, but we're trying to move on getting this equipment purchased for this summer so we can start to repair and replace our aging network system. So the review by the COC comes after they just review for trying to think of the word.
Yeah.
And can I qualify what's COC?
I'm sorry, that's the Citizens Oversight Committee.
Thank you.
Right. So they don't review and approve purchases. They review after the fact to make sure that we followed all the procedures. So they would go through that, but we are following public contract code. And we're just looking to get that started while we have this break in board meetings over the summer. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Trustee Horner?
Yeah, just to having served on the Citizens Oversight Committee for a number of years before joining the school board. Yeah, it's often kind of misunderstood the role of that as a citizens oversight. Its role, and I was instructed on this at length for 6 years, is to review what has been done against the terms of the bond. Correct. And to ensure that the proceeds are used for things that were approved against the original bond. In practice, it's a discussion group with staff that's very interesting and lively, but it doesn't have a role in contract approval or vendor selection or those sorts of things. I know we need to be in recruiting mode to continue filling that. A lot of people were interested when it was brand new, and as Measure G is winding down, there's not as much community interest in that role. But just more background on that topic.
thank you.
If that's done, I'd like to make a motion to approve Item 1F.
Second.
Got a motion to approve in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next one is J1G.
I pulled it.
Trustee Altman.
Thank you. I pulled this. I am in favor of attorneys. One of my kids who writes as an attorney. However, our legal expenses have been going up and I'm just wondering, moving forward, if we could get some information where the money's going to. As I'm looking at my SPED colleagues, and I dealt with a lot of attorneys as a SPED teacher, how much is going to SPED? How much is going towards contracts for construction? And if we could just get more information, it's it's my ask, and then I will move that we
we can certainly provide that.
Approve.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And may I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Gardiner. Thank you, Vice President Altman. We have a motion to approve J1F. All those in favor say aye.
We have a public comment, I think, on this item. I think we had public comment on this item.
Wait, come on. How could I forget you? Please.
Both items got approved, but I was okay.
Sorry.
So
We're trying. We are really trying.
Item J1E, the item requests the board approval to delegate authority to Dr. Garcia to enter negotiations and or contracts with third parties such as YMCA. While I love YMCA and I do 100% support the program, I urge caution regarding this request. It could impact the due diligence needed in our financial decision-making, especially considering our financial track record. Additionally, granting more authority to the superintendent undermines transparency in financial decisions affecting our district's financial stability and bringing transparency to the board. Giving more authority to the superintendent is counterintuitive to implementing more collaborative processes in making sound and sustainable financial decisions. And regarding J1F, much of what I had concerned was echoed by Trustee Gardiner regarding the oversight committee that is forming. It currently has 3 vacancies to better examine how does this contract of $500K fit into the terms of that bond, and whether or not it can be used strictly for maintenance of our facilities as this bond was intended. And this was brought up last board discussion before the funds are depleted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've got a motion on the table to approve J1F. G? Right.
Can I just?
And
real
I've got a
quickly?
first. I'm sorry, Trustee.
Yeah, no problem. On G, so we're going to get, can you just share with us what we're going to get to break that down more and when to expect it? As per Trustee Altman's request.
Per Trustee Altman's request, she would like a breakdown of the various categories for which we seek legal. I can't really give you a timeline. We can work on it as quickly as possible. But I can tell you the bulk of it is special education, human resources. A lot of this is attorney-client privilege, which is why I'm trying to be vague. Can't really disclose with the public because of the attorney-client privilege matter. But with the board, absolutely, we can break down the categories and the cost. So we'll work on it.
3 months from now?
Less than that.
2 months?
Yeah, we can work on it. Yeah.
Do I go on?
Soon.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Sorry if I may, Mr. President, we're going a little out of order here. Just back to the Citizens Oversight Committee and the original Measure G. It actually explicitly calls out, I think, going by memory, I think it was 10%, but the original bond actually called for ongoing investment in technology as a key reason for passing that bond back when. In fact, it originally had this notion of creating an endowment fund to ongoingly generate cash for that. That was later determined under state law to not be an allowed use, but using the bond to provide for technology infrastructure was very explicitly included in Measure G that the voters voted on, just if there's any confusion about that. Again, having served on that committee for many years. Sorry, back to our current item.
All right. We're ready to vote?
We have a
what J1G. Yeah, we have
to. Yes, yes. No. We're going to vote on it now. So we've got a motion. We've got a motion and a second to approve J1G. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next item is J2A.
So in the SIPSAs, I did see something that concerned me in that at Sobrato High School, in strategy 1.5, it states hourly pay for paras to meet the entire school day, an extra hour, 5 days a week, including for teachers and professionals to meet with their inclusion partners, etc. So when the district moved to 7 periods, we talked about it in the Personnel Commission, they didn't move the paras hours. So if they are special ed paras that need to be with students, I would not want the school to take on the responsibility of paying for that or picking that up and doing that year after year. It should just be a standard classified salary that we pay out of our regular salaries. Does that make sense? I don't know who to ask.
Makes sense. Certainly makes sense.
I don't want additional burdens on we're going to pay the money either way, but I would want it classified the right way. And I don't know, I didn't see it in the Live Oak SIPSA, but I would want somebody to check if they have some paras as well. And
the majority of the paraprofessionals are 6 hours. We do have some that are 7, but it's also in the way the sites utilize the paraprofessionals. You mentioned Sobrato. Sobrato has, Dr. Jimenez, correct me if I'm wrong, more inclusion classes than Live Oak. And so as a result, they're needing more hours. And so what we need to do, because we're a system, we can certainly look into that and cost out the extra hours. Certainly going to be cost prohibitive, but we can certainly cost it out. But it's also in the way that the sites use the paraprofessionals for the inclusion programs.
Trustee Horner.
And just a clarification, my recollection is that when the 7th period was added, we did not extend the school day or the work day. It was a reworking of the calendar of breaking it into more pieces rather than adding another half hour or another hour to the school day. So I'm not quite following Trustee Eves-Knudsen, the 7th period connection to this item. So I'm a little confused.
It might be dependent on the school and the classes and the students, but if a special education student has 7 periods and they have a one-on-one aide and that aide only worked 6 hours and went home, or the 6 periods, a partial day, and the student was there longer, then we would have to make up that extra, shuffle in somebody else, or make special accommodations. So we found out mid-year during the Personnel Commission meeting that not all inclusion classes and not all students were getting the support that they needed. And now I'm seeing that the coverage for some of this is coming out of the SIPSA. So my question is this the best way to do it, or should it just be paid out of general classified salaries? So I would approve this with, some research going into how should this be handled and paid correctly, and not be a burden to either of our high schools.
Vice President Altman.
I think I'm the longest tenured SPED person in the room right now. And so I'm going to go back to, the year 2000. For example, where paras typically were 5-hour paras. The exceptions were the one-on-ones. And we would just stagger the start time to cover our schedules. And different schools would use different strategies to do that. And so without speaking to the principals involved here, I'm wondering if they're just using different strategies so that, and we had a morning shift and afternoon shift. And so it just might be a site decision that they want to have their paras there longer, as opposed to necessarily a structural issue. So I think we would need more. And that's kind of like down the line, should we look at it would cost more money, so how should paras be deployed? I think that should go back to the SPED department to consider personally, that's my personal opinion, but this has been ongoing like forever, at least down to 1998. Is when I know it was happening.
Trustee Gardiner.
So just so I'm kind of the consensus, then are you saying to table it for more information? Is that what you're asking for? Or what are we? Because it makes sense. I would like to know what you're
I would approve the SIPSA, but I'm requesting that somebody on staff looks into the specific site needs at our high schools since the number of periods changed. How has that impacted inclusion, paras? How should that extra hourly be met, needs be met? Anyway, it's a question. I just don't want it to be a burden on the school if it's a general purpose, something special ed or somewhere else it should be paid for.
All right. There aren't any other comments or questions. Can I get a motion to approve J2A?
I so move.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next item is J4A.
Thank you, Mr. President. For many, many years, none of us get to go to National Night Out because the first Tuesday of the month is National Night Out and it's a board meeting. And I would really like to go to National Night Out once, like this summer. And so I would like to request that our August 6th board meeting be moved. So can I send the calendar back for a little reworking? I think we need to meet 2 Tuesdays in August, but I really think, I don't know, the National Night Outs I used to go to 7 years ago were very much a community event with schools involved, as you all know, PD heavily involved, Parks and Rec, et cetera. So I would love to get back to that at least once.
So we can bring it back.
Can we look at the calendar right now and look at everybody's availability? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
If we can. And
Let's do that.
I would also like to recommend along similar lines, colleagues, I've been a long time advocate that we should I would recommend that the board trustees and staff just keep Tuesday nights open, regardless of whether there's a board meeting scheduled. And that way, when stuff comes up and we need more time together, which has happened multiple times this year, then we just go to our next Tuesday night instead of having doodle poll after doodle poll for Fridays or Saturdays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So given that, if we could all adopt that mindset, I think it would help scheduling a lot. And then it would allow us also to conduct our business on a weeknight. It's easier for me. I don't know about other people. So in any event, that's kind of related. So if we could find another Tuesday in August and we kind of adopt this mindset, that might make our task easier.
Okay, so I would suggest we do one regular board meeting in August. We can do August 16th and then keep a board, I'm sorry, the 13th. I don't have my calendar up in front of me. And then keep the August retreat, which would be TBD. And we would have one regular board meeting in August.
The one scheduled on.
Thank you, Kelly. That sounds good to me.
Kelly, can you repeat that one more time?
13.
So we will change or amend the schedule to have our first board meeting of the school year on August 13th. And then we will be scheduling a Board of Education retreat within that month at a later date.
When will we schedule those retreats? We should do that.
I did the doodle
That's right.
poll's
I
been
apologize.
sent out. So as soon as I get the results of that, I will go ahead and add that to the calendar.
Got it. So we could conceivably find out tomorrow, assuming, I think we only had one person. Yeah.
And can't cancel the theme session on the 20th.
The 13th works for me.
So can we
13th
act
works
on
for
this
everybody?
tonight?
Yeah,
and
you
instead
can
of-
amend it. Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the calendar with the changes that the August 13th be our regular board meeting instead of the 6th, and that the August 20th themed study session is deleted.
Thank you, Trustee Horner. Can I get a second on that?
Second. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right. Next item. Here we go. We're going to go to K2. All right. Next item is K2. Through consent approval of the 2024-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan. 2024-2025 budget overview for parents. 2023-24 annual update. 2024-25 LCAP federal addendum, and the 2024 local performance indicator self-reflection. Assistant Superintendent Jimenez will introduce this item.
Thank you so much, President Escoto. Trustees, at the June 4th meeting, staff presented all of those documents. I can repeat them again: the annual update, the LCAP, the budget overview for parents, the local performance indicators, and the federal addendum that must accompany the LCAP. Since the June 4th meeting, the annual update and the 2024 LCAP have been draft documents have been updated to reflect your feedback and the feedback from the Santa Clara Office of Education, among other feedback. And so tonight we ask that the board adopt these documents as presented.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion?
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Jimenez. I've had an opportunity to review and certainly saw feedback reflected in the updated version. So I'm happy to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Montes. Can I get a second?
Yes, with pride and pleasure. And thanks for all the good work. I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next item is K3, approve Morgan Hill Unified School District's annual budget for 24-25 school year in accordance with Education Code 42122-42127. Assistant Superintendent Timbo will introduce this item.
Thank you, Mr. President. The staff recommends approving the budget as presented last Friday on June 14th. And we'll move forward with the next level of work.
Thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Timbo. Are there any questions, comments? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Wait,
Oops. Sorry about that, Trustee Gardiner.
No
Please.
problem. So again, I'm concerned, I'm frustrated because as far as a plan goes, kind of echoing President Levis's talking point on his report, I know we need to move forward with this because I know we need to start to peel back the onion. I think that was a very good analogy, Ms. Timbo. But when, as the board, are we expecting, what's our timeline for a plan? Because I really feel like there isn't a plan per se, and I would like to have us speak to that as best we can.
Yes. Trustee Montes.
Thank you, President Escoto. Superintendent Garcia, if it is possible, could you bring up the timeline that you reviewed earlier on the BAC update, just to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of the projected timeline? Yeah. So looking at the timeline, Superintendent Dr. Garcia, can you refresh our memories in terms of considering the work of the BAC? Where are those opportunities where we'll see a plan, provide some feedback, and then receive an updated version of the plan?
Absolutely.
And I know this is work that we did in the subcommittee.
Yes.
So
Yes. And feel free to add if I omit something. The initial key step is in that board retreat in the doodle poll that Kelly sent out. That is going to be where the board will be able to provide those guiding, operating, the strategic objectives, the strategic focus, the North Star of sorts that the Budget Advisory Committee will be following. So it's at the retreat that the initial step will take place. After that occurs, as a board, you hand it over to the Budget Advisory Committee, and it's what I described earlier during the board updates, and that's the timeline. The Budget Advisory.
I can't read that, so it's font's too small. So
it's in your inbox. I sent it a little bit earlier.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, but that's the timeline.
But I mean, for the public, do you want to walk through that again, real quick?
Would you like me to walk through it again?
Sure.
Yes. Okay. So as I described earlier, in the top half is the timeline that the Board of Trustees that you all will be following. In July, as a reminder, we will be submitting applications for the community. We'll be working with our union partners in their selection of their representatives. And if you toggle below that, so that's the Budget Advisory Committee timeline. It's I'm also projecting, yes. So the application process will be opened most of July. We will be closing it July 26th. On the far right of this document is who the members, it identifies the members and their composition. And so that's on the right-hand side, and it describes the makeup of the members of the Budget Advisory Committee. They have to represent our district, and we have that denoted on there. The Budget Advisory Committee will be meeting several times beginning in August through December. And you see each of those bullets, colored bullets, correspond, the colored bullets below correspond to the icons in the top. So it's parallel there.
Okay, so I'm sorry, from here, when do we expect to have the BAC Budget Advisory Committee established?
In August.
Oh, I understand August are good because they're going to meet, but there's no date.
Yes, there is. There is.
First meeting is August 8th.
So those people will be chosen before August 8th.
Yes, they'll be chosen at the end of July by the ad hoc committee and myself.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. But these documents, as I shared earlier, are in your inbox.
Can I make one clarification as well? The actual board approved fiscal stability plan that the county will require has to be approved with the first interim documentation at the December board meeting as well. So that all the work that will lead up to that, then the board will approve the first interim documentation and the fiscal stability plan at the same time.
And you see that in December at the December board meeting.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Timbo. All right. So can I get a motion to approve the the Morgan Hill Unified School District's annual budget for 2024-25 school year? Any other questions?
No.
Did you have a question? Trustee Patterson.
So at Friday's budget meeting, we talked about what you requested of us. And then I mentioned that I'd like to see certain things. But I don't think I've seen those yet.
No,
So-
Assistant Superintendent Timbo and Director Lee also, they worked on several scenarios. I've asked them to develop one more. We have no cuts, which is unrealistic. We have the 17% and the shakedown of that in terms of the amount to cut, and then a 10%, and then 5 million over the over 3 years, which is the amount of deficit spending. It includes the information that you asked for. It includes the revenues coming in. It includes the expenditures. It includes the level of deficit spending.
And what reserves are left.
And what
So
reserves are
in this
left.
scenario, what
Yes.
the level of deficit spending and what reserves are left.
Yes.
So we will get that.
Yes.
When?
So I would like to add one more scenario, and then we can send that out within this week for the board to look at, so that when we convene in August, you'll have, at least the month's worth of.
So in August, we can review these scenarios. And when you say North Star and budget priorities, what you're saying is hopefully we'll pick a scenario. So that's one priority, which is the board needs to kind of come to consensus on level of deficit spending with which we're comfortable, which is what you asked for, and level of reserves with which we are comfortable. So we need to give those to you at the August retreat.
In an ideal way, absolutely, because that will be the ultimate guiding North Star for the Budget Advisory Committee. But I would want that session to also include additional topics.
Exactly. So besides that, then there will be other budget priorities that we will be discussing and selecting, and then arriving at consensus on. And I'm imagining that there will be besides those financial numbers and percentages, there will be, I would imagine, 4 to 6, maybe 8 other budget priorities expressed as kind of values, is what I'm imagining, as long as they're clear.
Yes, absolutely.
And concise. And that will be our deliverable at the August retreat.
That would be the ultimate deliverable, yes.
And then the Budget Advisory Committee takes those, actually, just the 2 members that will become members of the BAC will take those to the BAC.
Yes, or staff can take it to, yes.
Okay, that's helpful.
And something that I forgot to mention, that when the ad hoc committee was also looking to have the conversations that the Budget Advisory Committee will be having, they would like for those to be facilitated. And I have a lead on other facilitators who have supported other districts in trimming budgets.
Any other comments, questions? Trustee Altman.
I do feel like with our planned August retreat where we can state our priorities, and I think we kind of saw that when we opted to keep the wellness counselors at the elementary schools, where that's one case where our priorities came out. We're going to be able to sit down, talk about it, and they're full day. So we'll have plenty of time, and having a budget advisory committee. Typically every year there's a budget meeting with the bargaining units, but that's not in it. I don't see that as an advisory committee. I see that as more an informational session and question answering, but this is truly going to be an advisory committee and gathering information from the community. And so with so much more input from the community, from the school board, that I move that we adopt this budget and realize going forward, it's going to be a very different process. So how's that for a lengthy motion?
That's very good.
Did you get all those words, Kelly?
Vice President Altman.
It's right on Zoom recording.
Trustee Patterson.
Before I second that outstanding motion, I would like to clarify that this retreat, we're also establishing superintendent goals. Is that true, or
that is actually what we discussed at the ad hoc
How
committee,
long
yes.
is this retreat?
So we said 8. We indicated 8 to 5. I think that's what we penciled in. Yeah, that's in the doable, yes. 8 to 5. 2 items.
2 items, 8 to 5.
But they're going to be a lot of
There will be some overlap. Okay. I can't wait. This is awesome. I second that motion.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. All right. Next item is K4 adopt resolution establishing committed fund balances for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Assistant Superintendent Timbo will introduce this item.
Thank you. If you recall, back on Friday, we also had a public hearing for committed fund balances that did not have a subsequent action item. That was, the public hearing was required, and now we have the actual resolution that commits those fund balances for the general fund and Fund 17.
Thank you very much.
So, recommend approval as submitted.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Hearing none. Hearing none. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
Oh.
I make the motion to approve the adoption of the resolution establishing committed fund balances for 24-25 fiscal year so we can pay our bills in the summer.
Thank you, Trustee Knudsen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Altman. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those, I'm sorry, all those opposed. It's late. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, next item is K5, approved resolution calling for candidate election at the November 5th, 2024 presidential general election. Superintendent Garcia will introduce this item.
This is a required resolution, literally what the title says, calling for nominations for the November 5th presidential general election. It denotes the three areas that are up for election. It's Trustee Area 5, Trustee Area 6, and Trustee Area 7.
Okay.
Since we continue to have a democracy, I'll make a motion to approve this resolution.
Thank you, Trustee Horner. Can I get a second? Who's second?
Trustee Gardiner.
Thank you, Trustee Gardiner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next item. K6, consideration and approval of amendment to term of the superintendent's employment contract. And I'm going to read a statement. California Government Code Section 54953 C3 requires that a verbal summary be given to the public prior to final board action on certain employment agreements. The next agenda item addresses the board's open session discussions in consideration of an amendment to the term of the employment agreement with Superintendent Dr. Carmen Garcia. For context, the July 1st, 2021 employment agreement with the superintendent provides in Section 9C of the agreement that, quote, the board shall consider whether to enter into an agreement with the superintendent to extend this superintendent's agreement by 1 year, unquote. As a result of the superintendent's receipt of a satisfactory evaluation for the 2022, 2023, and 2024 school years, one additional year for each of those 2 years was added to the proposed amendment agreement. Accordingly, the amendment employment agreement amends the terms of the employment agreement as follows. The term of the superintendent's employment agreement shall begin July 1st, 2024, and extends through and including June 30th, 2028, unless terminated earlier or extended as provided by the terms of this agreement or as allowed by law. This completes the summary of the amendment agreement. A complete copy of the amendment to the employment agreement is available from the district office upon request. Is there a motion and a second to approve this motion?
Trustee Patterson has her hand up.
Trustee Patterson.
If I may, I just want to make sure I understood what was just stated. What was just stated was that for the 22-23 school year, the board should have considered an extension to the contract and didn't.
That's correct.
And now we're at the 23-24 school year and we are considering an extension to the contract.
That's correct.
So if I understood what you read correctly, I would say we're kind of in arrears for last year. And I think as a trustee who sat on this board last year, I have the previous board president on my right. It looks like a step was missed. Anyone else who sat on the board at that time? Oh, were we all there? Oh, fantastic.
We're all there.
Okay. So as a veteran board member who was sitting here at that time, I take responsibility for that oversight from 22-23.
All right.
Did I understand that correctly, colleagues? It sounds like I did. Thank you.
That's correct. All right.
Understanding that, I would like to make a motion to approve the amendment.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you,
sorry,
Trustee Horner. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no.
No.
All right. Do we want
Roll call.
a roll call vote? All right.
Alphabetically?
Alphabetically? Yeah, if you can call it out.
You can just go around the table.
Yeah.
Trustee Montes,
Aye.
Trustee Patterson,
Aye.
Trustee Eves-Knudsen, Trustee Altman,
With sincere hope that next year I can vote differently, no.
Trustee Escoto,
Aye.
Trustee Horner,
Aye.
and Trustee Gardiner.
No.
All right. Motion carries. And 4-3 vote. All right, next item is case 7, new business. Any future agenda items? Trustee Knudsen?
I think it's a question. There was a ribbon cutting ceremony at Britain. It was announced fairly quickly before it happened. And I heard later that there were some former school board trustees that were disappointed that they weren't invited, that they had approved the building and structure from a long time ago. So I am wondering if in the fall, if there is any plans for any grand opening or open house or something that we could invite them to.
Great. And I don't know if you want to respond or need to respond, but I also have a comment.
You got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right.
Somebody.
Well, I was going to add, I was pleased to see former Superintendent Batondo there. And I like to explore the possibility of a plaque for the building that would have Superintendent Batondo's name and the board members who were sitting on the board at that time who approved that. Anyway, it's an idea. If you have any comments or want to discuss it or roll it over to staff for consideration.
I don't know if we can we discuss that now?
Probably can't. So, and we won't. So, it's a suggestion that I can follow up, and just thinking about it, the dilemma is that you've had two administrations that were involved, and 2 boards that were involved in the development of that. So, so we wouldn't have a long plaque. No. So anyway, I withdraw my suggestion. Did somebody have a question? Yes.
To address Trustee Knudsen's question?
No, it's kind of related, kind of, but.
Okay, I just wanted to respond really quickly. Lene sent out an invitation. I'm looking at the invitation. It's 62 guests. And so maybe you can tell me who was left out so that we can reach out to them and certainly invite them to an open house of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right, moving on. My goodness, we're at adjournment.
No. We're not done.
Yes.
Finish with 7, I'm sorry. If I may.
Yes.
So, Dr. Garcia, we've talked about this for quite some time. I think I would ask you, in terms of as we prepare to set your goals for next year, if you would confer with CALSA and AXA around some kind of practice among the superintendents for publishing goals in some form or another. I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas on how we might do that. And maybe among your colleagues, there'll be some kind of a really, a nice practice that they've come upon that is offering transparency, but under no circumstances revealing any private personnel concepts. Thank you for that. And then maybe by the time we have our August retreat, we talk about goals, then we can also talk about how those might be communicated in a way that is professional and preserves privacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. Any other future agenda items? Trustee Horner.
Thank you. I have one. I'm not sure if it needs to be a board agenda item or otherwise, but I'm hoping that following up on the work of the CAP students and other conversations we've had, that we can put together a request for proposals from various firms to do energy, both not only generation, but efficiency work. There's still federal money that the state hasn't made the rules yet for how we access it. Hopefully that will happen this year. I know there've been some conversations with PG&E and others, but I really believe we should put out a full request for proposal. There are a lot of different companies and organizations that do this, and frankly, I don't trust PG&E to always give us the best deal. That's a matter of opinion. And some districts, when they've done this, the board has actually, put forward a request for proposal. Sometimes it comes from staff, so it could be a board action or a staff action, but I'd like to capture that and continue working with our students and advisors and the CAPS team on that, because I think there's some money to be saved. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Horner. Any other items for future agendas? Having heard none, can I get a motion for adjournment? A second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. All right. This meeting is adjourned.